All right, good evening, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. Meeting of the Carver Select Board for Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. Select Board meetings are broadcast live on YouTube and are also recorded by Area 58 Community Access Media Channel 9 and will be posted by Area 58 on YouTube as soon as possible. There are openings on several committees. Please refer to the front page on our website for a listing and application. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Ryan, if you could read our community prayer.
Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility, and especially we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we have been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek, and keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. All right, the first item on our agenda, as always, is citizens participation. We ask any citizens speaking to the board to try to keep their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the board this evening? Seeing none, we will move on to our first item, which is to ratify the police union memorandum of agreement. Chief, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Earlier in executive session, the board discussed amending the police union memorandum of agreement to add the position of a police lieutenant. Chief, is there anything you'd like to add?
Sure. I'd just like to say that tonight I'm asking the board's approval of the memorandum of agreement that converts our current administrative sergeant position into an administrative lieutenant position. I want to emphasize from the beginning that this proposal is not about adding another ranking officer or reducing patrol staffing. It simply changes the rank assigned to the level of responsibility and accountability that comes with the assignment. Financially, the impact is minimal. The estimated increase can be accommodated within the FY27 budget. This is a conversion of an existing position, not a creation of a new one. The administrative responsibilities of this position will grow. The administrative lieutenant will oversee our dispatch center, records division, special police officer program, accreditation and training for sworn and civilian personnel. The person will provide administrative supervision to our detective division when the detective sergeant is unavailable. These are responsibilities that extend beyond the traditional role of the admin sergeant and require a command level perspective. Another important reason for this proposal is succession planning. Currently, there's a significant gap between the responsibilities of a sergeant and those of the deputy chief. Patrol supervisors gain tremendous operational experience, but they have very little opportunity to learn the administrative side of running a police department. Things like budgeting, personnel management, labor relations, grant administration, accreditation, and long-term planning. This position creates that bridge. It allows a future leader to gain valuable executive level experience while working directly with the deputy chief and me. It allows us to evaluate and develop those future leaders in our organization. The position also strengthens our command structure. If both the deputy chief and I are away for training or conferences, which happens several times a year, the administrative lieutenant provides a clearly identified command officer to assume responsibility for department operations. I also want to point out that this promotion is tied to the assignment, not to the individual. If the person leaves the assignment and returns to patrol, they return to the rank of sergeant. This is an administrative assignment designed to meet the needs of the department, not to permanently increase rank. Ultimately, this proposal is about building a stronger organization. It improves oversight of critical administrative functions, prepares our future leaders, strengthens our command structure, and does so with minimal financial impact to the town. So I appreciate your board's consideration and expressly ask that you approve the memorandum. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Is there a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion to ratify the memorandum of agreement by and between the town of Carver, Massachusetts and the Carver Police Union, NEPBA Local 89 for the addition of a lieutenant.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
tonight.
Chief.
All right, next this evening is the accepted donation of a POW MIA table from Rolling Thunder Incorporated. We have several folks here tonight to talk about this. Welcome. If you could just introduce yourself for the folks at home.
I am Michelle Allegria, retired Air Force veteran and the newly appointed veteran agent here in Carver.
Welcome.
I am Jim Tregagas, also known as LT, from Rolling Thunder Mass Chapter 2, U.S. Navy veteran.
All right, thank you. And I'm so happy to see this on an agenda. I think this is a great thing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Tonight, I'm honored to present a meaningful opportunity for the town of Carver to recognize and remember our military men and women who have never come home by placing a POW MIA remembrance table and chair in the lobby of Town Hall. I respectfully ask that the Select Board accept a generous donation from Rolling Thunder, Inc., Massachusetts, Chapter 2, of a POW MIA remembrance table and chair that will be used in a table setting ceremony that will take place later this year. A POW MIA remembrance table is far more than just a piece of furniture. It's a silent tribute to American service members who were prisoners of war and to those who remain missing in action. It serves as a constant reminder that while many return home with honors, others never get that opportunity. Their absence is still felt by their families, by fellow service members, and our great nation. By placing this table in the lobby of Town Hall, we ensure that every Carver resident and visitor who enters our municipal building is reminded that freedom has a cost, and that our community has not forgotten those who made extraordinary sacrifices. I would also like to express a sincere appreciation to Rolling Thunder, Massachusetts Chapter 2, for their generosity and unwavering commitment to honoring veterans, promoting accountability for those missing in action, and educating future generations about the sacrifices that our nation's military. Here tonight is LT from Rolling Thunder, Inc., Massachusetts Chapter 2, to speak on behalf of the generous donation to the town of Carver.
Well, first I want to say thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure to be a member of Rolling Thunder for many years, and it's because I'm driven to the truth that our government left a lot of our people behind. And my will is to make sure that we never forget them. And so one of the main mission statements of Rolling Thunder is that we are to publicize and educate the public on the POW MIA issue. And we're willing to go to great measures to do that. And one of the functions that we serve is to provide municipalities like this that feel the same way to donate a memorial chair and a memorial table, what's called the missing man table, for display for educational purposes. So it becomes a living part of the town. And so that's part of our mission, is to make sure that we provide that to you at no expense to the town. And we will make sure that Michelle is supported in keeping that memorial running and a living, breathing extension of our armed forces that never got to come home. So that's what we're presenting this evening.
Thanks, LT.
Thank you.
On behalf of our,
Go ahead.
my apologies. On behalf of our veterans and their families, I respectfully request that the Select Board accept this generous donation from Rolling Thunder and authorize the placement of the POW MIA Remembrance Table and chair in the lobby of our Town Hall. Thank you for your consideration.
Other questions to the board?
Is there going to be a ceremony in the fall to let people know about it? Is one being planned? I know tonight we'll just vote on the acceptance of the donation, but then the actual
Yes.
placement. So do we have any information on that?
We do intend on doing the full ceremony in September, which is when POW MIA Remembrance Day is, which is September 18th.
Okay.
But that's not the day of the ceremony.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to accept the donation of the POW MIA table from Rolling Thunder, Massachusetts, Chapter 2.
Just to be correct, it's a memorial chair and
Okay.
and a memorial table.
Oh,
It's a
sorry,
missing
all right.
man table, there's
So
two
it's the
key
table and
items.
the chair.
Sorry,
I'll-
sir.
I'll amend that to accept both the table and the chair.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment from the board? Mr. Potter?
Just, I wanted to thank you both for your service, and I
Thank you.
think
Thank you.
this is a great honor for the town of Carver. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so I want to echo that thanks.
Thank you.
It's much appreciated, and to your Rolling Thunder group as well.
Thank you.
And you know, we've discussed this so many times. I think this is a wonderful thing for the town. So thank you so much for putting this together. We appreciate it.
Thank
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. The next is the announcement of a new Deputy Fire Chief, Jesse Boyle, effective September 28th, 2026. Folks? We need to grab one more chair. There you go.
If the three of you were here, who's watching the station?
Good evening. Good evening to the board. Get started? So tonight, we just wanted to give the board an update on where we stand in preparation of Chief Weston's retirement, as far as advancement in filling positions. So in preparation of Chief Weston's retirement, we have begun the process of advancement for our Deputy Fire Chief position and hiring for Jesse's current position, which is the Assistant Deputy Fire Chief. After careful consideration of many factors, we have decided to promote Assistant Deputy Fire Chief Jesse Boyle to the rank of Deputy Fire Chief, effective upon Chief Weston's retirement, and that will be September 27th or sooner.
No, it's
A little
going
disclaimer
fast.
we have to put in there. Jesse will assume the call sign of C2 with the primary responsibilities of administration, code enforcement, and fire prevention. And just to give you a couple facts about Jesse, he's been a member of our department since 2003. He served as a firefighter from 2003 until 2015. He was elected by his peers and promoted to lieutenant in 2015 and served as lieutenant until 2017, at which time he was promoted into Assistant Deputy Fire Chief position. And he's served in that role until current day. So these, the promotions, and I know Mr. Townsend, Mr. Chairman, you had a question about a pinning ceremony. So, you know, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but so Jesse's official pinning ceremony will happen after Chief Weston's retirement, so the 28th or later. And then also we have Jesse's positions, which we're working on filling at the current moment. And with that, we have begun the process of filling that. We are open application period internally, closed last evening, and which will result in qualified applicants. They will be administered a written examination in August, and then a formal assessment center from that point forward. And we expect to fill that position sometime in August, late August, early September, and then again the same schedule with Chief Weston's retirement and a pinning ceremony and official appointment. So that's where we're looking right now. And so I'd just like to say congratulations, Jesse.
Thank you.
One thing I neglected to say is Jesse's leadership, his dedication, expertise, and commitment to excellence made this decision pretty easy for the both of us. So
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions from any members of the board?
Well, just a comment. I think one thing we've learned in recent times here in Carver with our police chief stepping down and our fire chief stepping down in a couple of months is that it's so important to have that chain where you have people ready to step in, experienced, quality people, and we're very lucky to have that. And I think Mr. Boyle, you just continue that. So thank you. And I think it's a great great promotion. I think you'll do a great job. So-
Thank you very much.
so Thank you. Ms. York?
Yes, I want to thank all of you, too, for that decision. And thank you and Eric and the chief for what you do in your spare time, on your time, for the children of Carver as well. Appreciate that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sure.
Mr. Carter?
Congratulations. Just a quick question. Is this position now going to be deputy fire chief / code enforcement officer? Or does that get separated out?
So he'll be the deputy fire chief, and his primary responsibilities will be code enforcement, administration, and fire prevention. So the duties that he carries now will transfer with him. Yep.
All right.
All right, and just, yeah, thank you for being prepared. I know we're gonna miss Chief Western going away, but I think we can all trust that, you've got a good system in place, and, you're very prepared, and the transition is gonna be very smooth. And so thank you for that.
Testament to you.
Team effort. Always a team effort.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Allen?
Just congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate your time.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night. Thank you very
You
much.
too.
Thank you.
All right, next, if, with the board's permission, I'd like to take our 7:45 agenda item out of order, which is a discussion and possible vote on select board policies, select board guidelines for conduct and guidelines for conduct of boards and committees. Is there any objection? No. All right, great, thank you. We have our town council here with us, Mr. Greg Corbo. Thank you, Mr. Corbo, for hanging around a little bit and joining us on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Cannon, would like to start us off?
Sure, so these would be revised guidelines for both the select board and then for town boards. And again, they are guidelines for conduct. We look to this to make sure that our meetings are being run professionally and courtesy to all inhabitants of Carver and our guests that come up here. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to town council. He is the author of these. You can probably walk us through there. I know there's been a lot of changes since the last code of conduct that was updated. There's been a lot of rulings of the courts, and they really do dictate how these code of conducts are now written. So that's a significant change, I would say. It'd just be nice to your neighbor. Good.
Good. Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, board members. My name is Greg Corbo from Town Council's office, as you know. I took a look at the policies that had been in place before concerning code of conduct for members of the select board as well as other boards and committees of the town. And it's been some time since you've last looked at this issue, and there have been significant changes that have occurred in the law since then. Most significantly, there was a decision of the Supreme Judicial Court a while back that basically said that when you have public comment at your meeting, you cannot require that people be nice to you, or that they say nice things, that they don't yell at you. And that was really, I think, a significant change in the way that most boards, did business. I think it was expected that people would carry themselves with a certain level of decorum, and that, if they strayed out of bounds by, criticizing town officials or things like that, that they could be gavelled and asked to sit down. And so the court really now has said that if you have, an open public comment period, which you do, there really is very little content restriction that you can put on that public content, because there's, people have a right to, you've created a forum, people have a right then to use that forum as they see fit, even if it makes you a bit uncomfortable. Of course, that doesn't mean that they can threaten you with violence or actually, use violence or, racial slurs or things like that. But, if they're just sort of, criticizing the job that town council is doing, as much as you'd want to stop them and correct them, you would have to let them go forward.
And I think that we have been on the cutting edge of this for a long time, because long ago we changed our guidelines, which at one time were you had to speak to what was on the agenda to basically speak to whatever you want to speak about. The only restriction we have, and I guess I would ask you, is it still valid, is we ask people to stick to 3 minutes as best they can.
Yes, so that is still valid because that's a neutral, objective standard that can be applied to everyone. So, things like, time limits. If you wanted to, some boards, restrict it to only talking about items on the agenda. So as long as it's a content neutral, meaning it doesn't matter what they say, and it's objective, meaning the same standard applies to everyone, then you can apply those standards as well. So the 3-minute rule is still fine. Now, what you have in front of you is a little bit different. So these are guidelines for members who are on boards and committees. And, I think there's a little bit less First Amendment freedom there. You sign up to be on a board or committee and you're committing yourself to, speaking about the business of that committee and not going out on tangents or talking about other business. And, I think that it's reasonable, for the select board to at least outline a code of conduct of how you expect the town's representatives to behave. And this is not saying that anyone is restricted from doing anything. And it's specifically not saying that they cannot say whatever they want on social media as long as they are doing so in their individual capacity and they are making it clear that they are acting in their individual capacity unless they're speaking on a town-sanctioned website. So, basically we just ask that, people show up to meetings when the meetings are, that they treat their other members with respect, that they treat members of the public with respect, and that, they carry out their duties in a way that you would expect representatives of this town to behave themselves. And so we have 2 documents here. One is for you as the select board, and one is for other boards and committees. Now, with the exception of boards and committees that you appoint, this wouldn't necessarily be enforceable. You couldn't kick someone off of an elected body because they don't comply. But again, it's a guideline, it's a suggestion that you hope everyone would follow so that, when people tune in to meetings, they can, be proud of the representatives of the town that they're talking to.
Mr. Ryan?
So I did have a question on the first 2. This is the Select Board Guidelines for Conduct. So the amendment was adding that the primary function of this board is to make policies for carrying out the votes of town meeting. Now, what I was trying to understand in all of that, town meeting is all different kinds of articles at town meeting. And I was assuming this meant that, it's a vote of an article at town meeting. Am I reading that right? So there's, there's bylaw changes, there's financial items or articles and things like that. So I didn't really quite, and then there's, I guess I should add too, there's articles that even though town meeting voted on it, still has to go to the Attorney General's office for approval. So I was just trying to understand, and maybe there's different meanings of that, what it really meant to carry out the votes of town meeting and other applicable laws. I was just kind of looking for clarification on what the intent of that was and what that meant relative to our position.
Sure, thank you. Through you.
Before you answer, I think it spells it out in number 1. I mean, what's administration and of these policies and of the day-to-day functions of town government are delegated to the town administrator and other departments. So we
Correct.
set them, we don't tell them how to do it.
Right, but it does
We have the
say,
authority to ask questions and disagree.
You can, but you can't tell them what to do. It says right here,
no, but it said
administration
make
of the
policies.
policies
I'm sorry, could I
are
just get an answer
delegated
to my
to
question?
the town administrator.
I was asking, my question was to town council, sorry.
I understand, but it's pretty clear to me.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. So this really kind of sets the stage for, what is like separation of powers, right? You look at like the state government or the federal government, right? You have the executive branch, but then you also have the legislative branch, which is, Congress and the Senate. Well, in the town, the legislative branch is town meeting, and the executive branch is the select board. And so for example, let's say that you're interested in purchasing a parcel of land in town, right? Town meeting, as the legislative branch, would say, yes, we are going to authorize you to purchase that property, and we are going to appropriate funds. But then it's up to you as the executive branch to carry that out and say, okay, well, we want to purchase this, but we're going to do an RFP, or we're going to set certain limits on it. And so the same thing with other applicable laws would be bylaws of the town, right? If the town enacts a certain bylaw, let's say relating to licensing, right? Then it would be up to you to, as the licensing authority, to carry that out and apply it as applicants come in front of you. In addition to town meeting votes and bylaws, there are also many provisions of the general laws, right, that you're responsible for administering. So this really just kind of sets that separation of powers and defines what the role is of the select board. And you specifically ask, well, some things have to go to the Attorney General. Well, those are bylaws, right? So if town meeting enacts a bylaw, before that bylaw can go into effect, it has to be reviewed by the Attorney General to make sure that it is not in conflict with state law. But then once it's approved, if it's something that's within your jurisdiction, then you would administer. But maybe it's a bylaw that's in, for the Conservation Commission, then that would be up to them to administer. So this is, again, just really sort of setting that stage of separation of powers and defining what your role is.
And I guess that was kind of the gist of my question. There may be things that are voted on at town meeting that aren't in our jurisdiction. So it seems pretty open-ended here, saying that the votes at town meeting and applicable laws, I mean, there's plenty of things that are voted on a town meeting that are not within our jurisdiction, and that maybe, I don't know if that language should be added to it, but I think we know common sense it's not, but sometimes spelling it out is clearer to people that there may be things voted on that don't come to this board and we can't.
So I could add language that says after other applicable laws, we can add other applicable laws within the jurisdiction of the select board.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. Anything, Ms. Yost?
Yes, so could you tell us how this jibes with the second sentence there? Administration of these policies and of the day-to-day functions of town government are delegated to the town administrator and other department heads and employees.
Yes, okay, so now that's like the next step removed, right? So, you decide that as the town meeting authorized you to purchase a parcel of land, the select board then decides, yes, we want to go through with it, and we want to put together a purchase and sale agreement. Well, then you're going to direct the town administrator to work with town council to actually do that work and bring it back to you for approval. So, again, it's you have the legislative policy, you have the executive policy makers, and then you have, the administrative officials that actually go ahead and carry out those policies.
Okay. Everybody good?
Yep, and then on the second one, so the one thing that I
Are we
hesitate...
talking about the other
I'm sorry, it's the second clause of the
second clause
select
in
board.
the same, I just want to make sure we're the same
Correct.
policies, okay.
Yeah, so there's one line in there that I can understand why it might have been intended, but I mean, I'm thinking about budget season, we're all trying to put budgets, work on helping to get the warrant ready for town meeting. So there's one that says board members are not, cannot ask for assistance, to any town department. So, if I discover something on an article and I have a question, it's basically saying I'm not permitted to ask a question of the appropriate maybe department head or something.
That says individual board members.
Yeah, so it says this means that we as board members are not permitted to ask for assistance as an individual select board member to anybody else in the town. So if I have a question for the finance director or something, it's saying we're not permitted to do that.
I don't think that's what it's meant to do.
I think it means we're not supposed to tell them what to do. That's up to the TA and the
It
department head.
says ask for their assistance. Those are the words that are in there. So I can't ask anybody for assistance if I'm working on,
Not as an individual.
unless the board
Not-
votes. So
yeah,
if I'm
not-
working on the budget.
Not as
and
an
I-
individual. You can't
Right.
walk in there and tell, the finance director what to do.
Greg, nothing,
No,
nothing in these
it's
policies.
not saying tell them.
Let's say there was a town meeting article coming up that impacted the operations and maintenance department. There's nothing in these policies that could stop you from calling John Woods and say, hey, John, can I stop in for 5 minutes and ask you about this or that or whatever it is?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, the language is a bit broad, but, there have been circumstances where individual members of boards, think that they are vested with certain authority over town employees. And while on the one hand, there's, going in and asking a 5-minute question, there have been circumstances where onerous requests have been made, entry into offices, private offices have been made. And that type of behavior as an individual board member should not be allowed unless there's a vote. If there's a vote that says, Mr. Ryan, we want you to sit down with the finance director and go through the fiscal, 28 budget, that's fine. But you can't, in my opinion, take it upon yourself to say to the finance director, I want you to pull up all of the background documents concerning the fiscal 28 budget, and I want you to sit down with me for 3 hours and go through it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that would not be an appropriate action by an individual member unless it was to be authorized by a vote.
But there's nothing in these guidelines, just I'll continue to pick on operations and maintenance. There's nothing in these guidelines that would stop a select board member from calling the finance director and saying, hey, I have questions about this part of the budget, I'd like to come in and talk to you about it, get some explanation. There's nothing to stop that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's, and it's like I said, it's not meant to prevent you from interacting with employees, but it's just to sort of establish a chain of command, because it would be very difficult if, the facilities department was getting instructions from 5 different people on the same task. And
Different sets of instructions.
That's right.
Yeah.
It could potentially be different sets of instructions. And so it really is just to sort of set up a chain of command and give the employees the comfort to know that, when something comes down from the board, then that's their job and they do their job. And as an individual, you cannot assert yourself into that employee's job performance, without them saying, like, if you said, hey, I want to talk to the facilities director, tomorrow for an hour, and he says, no, I'm busy, that it should be within his ability to say that and say, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan, I can't meet with you about that.
But if he says, yeah, I'm available, come by anytime, my door's open.
Yes, then it's absolutely
not
fine.
preventing the board members from asking questions.
And
meeting.
I'm much more concerned about giving directions than asking questions, right? Or the types of onerous requests, like, reviewing pages and pages of documents that take away from their ability to do their work.
Okay.
Anybody else have any comments? Yes, Mr. Carver.
Yeah, do most towns have these things?
Yes, a lot of towns have things like this.
And what happens if a select board member intentionally, unintentionally violates this agreement, guideline? What happens to us?
They're
Nothing.
fired.
Through you, Mr. Chair, nothing. Okay? You're all just sitting here making an agreement that says, we agree that this is how the select board should conduct itself. And
Guidelines that we voluntarily agree to.
Correct.
Right. All right, is there a motion to approve this particular guideline?
So moved. To approve the select board guidelines for conduct.
Is there a second? Someone like to second it?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the guidelines for conduct of board and committee members. And I think we touched on this a little bit.
Yes, so it's the same idea, except that, with respect to appointed bodies that are appointed by the select board, then you do have more, say over them. And, if you have this policy and you have an appointed board member who's not following it, that could be grounds for removing them from the board or not reappointing them. But the substance of this is essentially the same, that, if you're on a multiple member body, you don't have the authority to act by yourself. And you should be conducting yourself in a way that, is commensurate with how we expect public officials to conduct themselves.
All right. Are there any questions on this? Yes.
Do we, and I think Plymouth does this, do we have, if we have new appointments to certain boards and things like that, do we require, in addition to everything that they do for onboarding, I'll call it, have to review, can we require that they have to review the policy?
That can be required. I don't know if it is done now.
They should get a copy. If we appoint someone
Do we do that today or
They
not?
should be given a copy.
I don't think we do, right? All right, because Plymouth actually does. I'm actually serving on one of Plymouth's boards, as you know, or committees. And so when I was reappointed, I was given their policies to review, and it's similar, the code of conduct and things like that. So
And we should establish something where every time someone gets appointed, we could even ask Kara to send it out.
I was going to say, these days you could certainly email it to any
Yeah, or
That's what
send
they
it.
do.
One way or another, they should be given these guidelines.
Correct.
yeah, okay.
All right. If there's no questions, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anything else?
No, I didn't. Jim, were you raising your hand?
No, he was going to second it,
Oh,
but
I-
I beat him to the punch.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. And I think,
That's it.
Corpo, is there anything else? on the
I
agenda?
move a special town meeting while town council's here. if
Okay,
you want
that
to.
makes
I know
sense.
it's nothing out of order, but.
Yeah, with the board's permission,
Would make
we'll
sense.
take, where is that? That is
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. All right, we'll take our 8 o'clock agenda item out of order, which is discussion and possible vote on special town meeting to set the date, time, and location. Do we have a suggested date?
We are right now looking at December 1st.
Wow.
6:30 at the middle high school.
And we've checked that with the town moderator?
Yes, the moderator, the clerk, with the school also.
Okay,
and-
council,
and-
that
and
works
town
for you?
council.
Yes, that's.
All right. Okay.
Just a question on that, does that give us adequate time for anything that needs to be approved?
It does, we went over the timeline
Yeah.
today. It gives us more than adequate time.
Yeah.
It does, okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair. This is actually more time than between when the annual was opened and the annual meeting. That was like approximately, like, I don't know, 3 months or something like that. So, it seemed like it was a good amount of time, and, we were thinking that if the warrant was open today, that maybe, was it October, I think?
We put down as October 7th.
October 7th for the warrant to close. This way, that would give everyone plenty of time to get their articles in, and then for the board to still have
Yeah,
discussions.
sorry, what I meant, and I probably should have said it clearer, is that for any of the articles that are going to be on there, do any of those have a timeline that we're missing? So if there are certain articles that have to be voted on, is there timeliness to any of the articles that we're going to end up delaying by having a later town meeting than earlier?
No, primarily this is really for the 40R, which would put us into MBTA compliance.
Right.
That extra timeline, works for them. We certainly talked it over with the town planner. So,
Okay.
that timeline worked for him.
Okay, that's my concern, because if for some reason the 40R, they were saying the town's taking too long to make a decision, I'm going to go a different direction. I just want to make sure that we're in sync with anybody that has articles to make sure that we can get that vote before they need it.
And originally, we did have an October date, and the town plan, again, they have that 90-day window from the state to get us back about the 40R. It was very tight, we give the state a little bit of leeway. Not sure they'll put us within 90 days, so it gives them a little bit of time. That pushed us into November. We actually had some scheduling conflicts in November. We weren't able to settle on a date, and that's why we came with December 1st, which does give us plenty of time.
So we're outside the 90-day requirement, or we're inside the 90-day requirement?
We need to be outside. They have 90 days to give us an answer. So we couldn't have it within 90
Okay.
days.
The
It has to be-
state- the state has 90
It has to be past 90
Ah,
days.
okay.
And we're giving them ample time.
Okay, so do
All
we
right.
need a motion?
Yes, is there a
So
motion?
I'll
to
make a
set the-
motion to set the special town meeting for, it's Tuesday, December 1st, 2026 at 6:30 at the middle high school.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Would you want to open the warrant today and then close it? I would say October 7th, and same for petition articles. I go with the October 7th date,
Yeah, October 7th at what time?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
I'll make a motion to open the warrant today and close it on October 2nd at 4 o'clock.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Mr. Corbo, thank you for your help this evening, as always.
You're welcome. Nice to
Appreciate
see
it.
everyone.
All right, let's see, we will jump back. We have a 6:50 item with the Finance Committee, but I don't believe our Finance Committee, all our members are here yet. So, Mr. Cannon,
We do have a 7 o'clock capital outlay project update.
I was going to ask you if you'd like to give us,
I do see the Finance Committee here and then the IT Director's here.
okay. Is everyone here from the Finance Committee? Mr. Mahar, do you have everyone you need?
No, he needs one more member.
All right, then why don't we do the,
No, we've got 3 out of 4. We're good.
They have 3.
all right, let's go. Then why don't we go to our, why don't we go to our 6:50 agenda item, which is the fiscal year 2026 end-of-year budget transfer request. It's a joint meeting with the Finance Committee. So we'll welcome our Finance Committee members to the meeting.
We do have
Thank you, folks. And Mr. Mahar, when you're ready, if you'd like to open your meeting.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order of the joint meeting of the Finance Committee with the Select Board at 6:45 PM. And I'd like to thank the members of the FinCom for coming on short notice. Thank you. Okay, we're good.
Thank you, folks, and I believe we needed this joint meeting because there was an additional transfer that came up, Mr. Cannon, is that correct?
Correct, there was, through the Board of Health, at our landfill, I know the Board of Health agent talks about this when we go through our department head meetings when we're setting the budget. There are monitoring requirements from DEP that have come down over the years. As the landfill has gone on in years, those monitoring requirements have become less and less, it becomes cleaner and cleaner. The budget usually goes down at that point. This year, and I'm sure the board will not be surprised by this, DEP decided to include PFAS into that testing. We had never tested for PFAS before. Again, we have been testing this for years. PFAS is fairly new. DEP came forward with a mandate that we had to test for PFAS that established additional cost. And there was an amendment to a contract we had to sign to amend, to abide by DEP requirements.
All right, great. I also want to welcome our Finance Director, Ms. Karen Praval. Ms. Praval, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me, Select Board. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm here to present the FY26 end-of-the-year budget transfer request.
All right,
And if you want, I can just go into the request.
great idea.
So for the police department, we're requesting a transfer of $15,000, going from the police salary and wages appropriation to the police expense appropriation. And this was to cover additional purchases for equipment that they needed to cover for the end of the fiscal year. And they're able to absorb this within their current budget.
All right.
Do we vote on these individually?
I think we should. Mr. Mahar, has the Finance Committee already reviewed this?
We've done everything except the one for the Board of Health, so we've
And did you approve all of them?
voted them in a positive fashion.
Okay,
yes.
great, thank you. All right, other questions from the board about the police department transfer? And if not, is there a motion? Mr. Cotter?
Yeah, I just kind of want to use this as an example of the $175,000 reserve fund. And I'm not sure if we decided what the policy is that this thing gets kind of tucked away until the end of the year for transfers, and we went back and forth on this, but this is kind of a decent example, meaning that on the police budget, for additional equipment, they had $500. But then they were allowed to go out and spend another $14,500. And had they gone to the finance committee, it would have been a reserve fund request, because I'm assuming this would have been somewhat of an emergency in nature, and then it would have been, there would have been a meeting, there would have been disclosure, transparency, people would have known what it was for. But right now, this money got spent, it wasn't budgeted, nobody knew what it was for until now, right? So that's the difference between being able to address reserve fund, emergency fund transfers for transparency than waiting to the end. And having said that, can you tell me what this was for?
Oh, sure. So through you, Mr. Chair, just to address your question, what you were saying, Mr. Carter, is that one thing that we're changing is that we have two different Mass General laws. We have the Chapter 44, which is the end of the year. So if the department falls short, and I meet with departments on a monthly basis to see where they're at, and then quarterly, that would be under the 44, which is approved by the Select Board and the Finance Committee for any transfers if there's shortfalls at the end of the fiscal year. Sometimes departments are able to absorb them, and then the other thing is through Chapter 40. So Chapter 40, Chapter 6 is strictly for the Finance Committee. So the Finance Committee throughout the entire year can transfer funds through the committee at any time to cover any unforeseen. So we've kind of changed some of our internal policies, with the department heads, and letting them know that if there's anything that is unforeseen that comes up, such as amendments, or there's equipment or boat or an item that was not originally funded that they needed to cover, it's something that we would immediately go to the Finance Committee, let them know, and do the transfer. And this was, believe this was for a boat motor that was originally in capital, but it was not a capital item. It had to, and so we knew that thought we could absorb it through the operating budget for this fiscal year. But we definitely have changed how we're doing things moving forward, and the department heads are aware of that. And I think, as you're saying, it is going to be, especially for items where there's amendments that come up throughout the year, we don't have to wait till the end of the year through Chapter 40 versus Chapter 6.
Is there a motion to approve the
I
police?
had a question on it too. So just so everybody understands, I guess, there's the budget that was voted for the police department is not changing. It's the same budget. So what's happening here is that within that budget, they're going to move $15,000 from a line item. So my question from town meeting is, so we voted at town meeting for their budget, but did we actually vote on a separate wage and a separate expense at town meeting?
So at town meeting, votes for your salary and wage line is a gross amount, not the individual line items.
Okay.
And they vote the expense line, not the individual line items or in the expense. So as long as the department doesn't go over the gross amount of whatever they have for their salary and, salary and wages or expense, then that's fine statutorily. With the police budget, they knew they're going to be over their budget by $15,000 at the end of the year, and so they have savings in their salary line. So we're transferring money from the dispatcher's salary to the equipment line to cover that $15,000 that they need.
And I guess I'm asking, why is it coming before the board? Isn't that something a finance director, it's within their budget? We're not town meeting appropriated X amount of dollars. It's within their budget. They want to move money from their salary to their expense, and does that have to be voted on by the board?
That has to be voted on by the Select Board and the Finance Committee, and this is strictly
Okay.
under Chapter 43. So what happens at the end of the fiscal year? At the end of the fiscal year, the state allows, if there's a department that has a shortfall, a deficit in appropriation, the Finance Department, the Finance Director can transfer funds from any, can present, available balances. And so I can transfer from any available balance to cover that shortfall in the department under this law. It can only happen between May and July 15th, but it has to be approved by both the Select Board and the Finance Committee.
Okay.
So as I'm looking, what we do is that if the department that's requesting the funds can absorb it within the budget, then we'll transfer it. But I could have transferred it from debt service, because we had a savings in debt service for our short-term debt, because we didn't issue any debt. I could have it come from any line item in the budget where there's an available funds.
All right, so I'll make a motion to, within the police department budget total, to move or transfer $15,000 from their police salary and wages appropriation over to their police expense appropriation to fund additional equipment purchases necessary to support public safety operations and the safety of town residents.
I'll second that.
Motion is second.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Carter.
Just for my clarity, I see what you're saying, you know, but a department has many different line items that go negative. For instance, within police, the investigations line item had budget of $2,000 to spend $5, so they're over by 3.
Yes, sir.
Why wouldn't that be on a transfer? So it doesn't have, using that argument, doesn't that have to be on this list too?
No, it doesn't, because the amount of money that they need for equipment, if they wanted, because you're looking at the total line. So what we do is that if you have your, and you, we'll just say looking at the police budget, and you have your entire police budget, you have a certain amount for your expenses. They knew that for equipment, they were gonna be using more, but what happens, you may have some departments where they spend more in their telephone line than was budgeted. If you will say you have a budget of 200,000 and it's broken out with 10,000, you know, over 20 different lines of different categories. They may go over in transportation, maybe they go over in gas, but maybe they haven't gone over in office supplies. We use that information to look at their budget in the next fiscal year and say, okay, you were given $200,000. This may need to be reallocated, or maybe you don't need it in certain areas, but you need to increase it in these areas. So we use it for budgetary purposes to figure out what's needed in the next fiscal year. And so for the equipment, we knew this was equipment that wasn't budgeted, but like you're saying, maybe there's travel and training, they go over in travel and training. You could have chosen any line, but this was specifically for some question that they knew.
Mr. Chairman, if I could maybe give you a 30,000-foot take on the way I see it. Mr. Carter, so in reality, there's two large buckets the town meeting approved, right? There's the salaries and then the expenses. As long as you're within that salary, you don't have to come to the select board and ask for a transfer. You say there's somebody who was a $2,000 line item that went to $5,000. As long as within that salary, it stays the same, you know, the number never changes, never go over. You never have to come to the select board for that. It's because we're crossing over here. We have expenses, we're taking salary money and covering the expenses. So we're crossing over those two things, and that's why we have to come in front of the select board and the finance committee. The overall budget of the police isn't changing, but we're just crossing over those two buckets, if you will.
Anything else for discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to the assessing department.
Next is transfer of $14,000 is requested from the select board, salary and wages appropriation to the assessing contract hire consultants, other personal services, for $10,820, and from the assessing, and $10,820 from the assessing salary and wages to assessing contract hire and consultant line for professional services. These funds were needed to cover consulting services that were utilized during the periods of staffing vacancies and to assist with training with the new assessor. And it also covered some of the new assessing software that wasn't originally in the budget, as we had a change in directors. And it was associated with a renewal of a service contract that wasn't previously budgeted. There was a $10,820 in the salary and wages in the assessing department that could cover part of the shortfall, along with the $14,000 that was going to be transferred from the select board's additional hall hours.
Yes.
So first question is why is the funding available? Was there something that didn't happen during the year for the $14,000 from the select board salary and wages and the $10,820 from assessing salary and wages? Why are those numbers not going to be spent, I guess?
So for the assessor's salary and wages, they had available $10,820 in the salary line because we had a vacancy when the previous assessor left and then the new assessor was brought on. The salaries were different. And then, you know, in terms of looking at budgets that had available balances, we used the town hall additional hours had available balances in that fund. I could have selected debt service, but I felt we just, you know, talking, there's available funds. It can come from any department that has available funds, and that covers within the select board's office, different employees they may hire or different consultants. I don't know if Glenn wanted to discuss it in more detail.
It actually is the purpose of the fund is, you know, we bring on seasonal help. We might hire an engineer occasionally, or to cover things like this that, you know, this happens when we have turnover. You know, we had to retain a consultant to help the new department head. And this literally is the purpose of this money in our budget, is to help out the other departments.
And second follow-on question is, It has a general description of what the funds are needed for to cover consulting services during staff vacancy, but also to assist with training on new software and renewal. Do we have a breakdown of what those amounts were, why there were deficits in 3 different areas?
No, so the areas where the training was a training that was needed from the consultant that they had to hire. So we had a consultant that came in during the transition of the old assessor and new assessor that was assisting the assessor. So that covered the consulting using periods of staffing vacancies for the training. But the only thing that this is covering is the consultant that was coming in, and the consultant came in to cover helping with training the new assessor and working on just different areas of transition when the old assessor left, along with purchasing the assessing software, which was $14,000.
Okay.
So the assessing software that was required, that wasn't budgeted, was $14,000, and we spent $10,820 on a consultant during the period of helping the assessor from the time of the vacancy.
All right, thanks, that clarifies it. I was wondering why what the 2 amounts meant.
So I'd like to make a motion to transfer $14,000 from the assessing department, from the select board salary and wages appropriation to the assessing contract hire / consultant / other professional services appropriation, and $10,820 from the assessing salary and wages to the assessing contract / consultants and other professional services appropriation.
Second. I'll make a second.
Question?
Yes.
Sorry, you maybe explained it, but I missed it. But why did we go out and buy software, the $14,000?
There was a PK system software that was acquired, there was a renewal for a service. It was not in the budget,
So it's a
so
budget miss versus a new request?
that's correct. And this is a budget that Olivia took on from, her predecessor.
Got it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Next, we're at utilities, and it looks like the next two all came from the Finance Committee Reserve Fund.
That's correct. So you're requesting a transfer of $60,000, and this is for confirmation for the select board. That was approved by the Finance Committee, transferring $60,000 from the Finance Committee Reserve Fund to the utilities expense. This really covered a lot of the shortfalls and the increases in gas, propane, electricity this fiscal year.
Yeah, and that was pretty clear. That would not have been anticipated, so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a transfer of $60,000 from the Finance Committee Reserve Fund to the utilities expense appropriation.
I'll second that, but I have a question too.
Okay.
So this goes back to my confusion, we've talked about in the old days. So why isn't the Finance Committee just making this transfer, and why does it have to come before the board? Is it a timing thing because we waited so long? It seems like during the year, if we knew this, then the Finance Committee is an independent entity that can transfer from the reserve fund their Finance Committee without having to come before the board under their, under what I understand. So I'm still confused by that.
Sometime, depending on when the invoices come in, when we have the shortfalls, because usually there's a lot of money in the budget, and you get towards the end of the last couple of months, and you realize you're not going to have enough funding. But, as we're, looking at projected expenses, and as I mentioned before, we're going to be, working with departments. They're aware that, any shortfalls or will be presented to the Finance Committee throughout the year. But sometimes we don't know towards the end of the year because they still have available funds.
So was there a time cutoff? That's what I'm trying to get at, is why couldn't the Finance Committee have just met and approved this and then we're done with it? It means you're authorized to do the transfer on their vote. You don't need to bring it to the board because that's why they manage their own Finance Committee Reserve Fund. It's independent of us managing it, or do we have to manage it? I'm still confused by all that.
So if the Finance Committee were to vote transfers throughout the year, those still have to be approved by the Select Board. So the transfers can happen throughout the year by the Finance Committee without the Select Board being involved. As this being the year end, they still have to, that mass law states that it still has to be approved. Just as like the Finance Committee for the Select Board transfers, under 44 require both the Select Board and the Finance Committee.
I don't remember, Mr. Cotter, when we were on the Finance Committee together, did we have to do, I didn't remember doing that when we approved Finance Committee.
Well, maybe we weren't doing it.
Reserve Fund. Did we have to send them to the Select
Maybe
Board?
we weren't doing it correctly before.
When someone came before, town meeting gave us an amount of money, I think it was $125. and we had the full authority, because it generally went from the town accountant at the time to the town administrator, who, approved it and said, that's a
Right.
finance committee transfer, come to us, we transfer, it never went to the finance
I
committee.
didn't
It never
think,
went to the select board.
I didn't think it did.
Yeah, so under 40, just to make sure, I just want to make sure it's clear, because I added the two Mass General laws. Finance Committee reserve fund can be transferred at any time without the Select Board approval from the Finance Committee, and
Okay.
any time throughout the year.
I think
Why are
about-
we approving these now?
And why are we approving it?
Oh, I see what you're saying, because of the end-of-year transfers.
Well, why are we
So
doing it
they'll need to
tonight? That's
vote-
my
they'll need to
question.
But do we need to vote on anything transferred from the Finance Committee Reserve Fund?
I understand what you're saying.
Because yeah, okay, because the next one
Well,
is,
I thought I read the Mass General law, there's a differentiation of confusion between after July 30th, from
Yeah,
July
I thought so
1 to
too. I
July
thought so too.
15th. I think that window causes
So-
the
so-
select board to get involved.
So there's two laws, and so Mass General Law 44 applies to the window between May 1st and July 15th, where any transfers for any type of deficit has to be approved by both the Finance Committee and has to be approved by the Select Board and concurred and approved by
so
the
if it had
Finance
taken place
Committee.
before then, it would just be a transfer from the Finance.
Yeah, exactly, through Chapter 40. So technically, I don't believe they have to then vote on their transfers, even though we did it at the end of the fiscal year.
So we are still before that
We've always
July
done this,
15th
Dan.
date, so
We've always had this at the end of the year,
of not from the Finance Committee Reserve Fund?
for this kind of thing that
But not
Ms.
from the
Preval
finance.
is talking
We've
about.
had it since 2022, we never had it before that.
Okay.
All right, well, we've got these in front of us now, so let's
Yeah.
deal with them. This is an issue we can resolve at another time.
Okay.
So I quite frankly, I don't remember. Did we take a vote on the utilities?
No,
Yes, I made a motion.
We have a motion, we had
didn't vote.
a second, but we did not vote.
No, we
So
didn't.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed? It's unanimous, thank you. Next, we have legal. A transfer of $80,000 requested from the FinCom Reserve Fund to the legal expense appropriation to cover additional legal services required during FY '26 that exceeded the original budget appropriation.
I make a motion that we approve the transfer of $80,000 as requested from the Finance, is requested from the Finance Committee Reserve Fund to the legal expense appropriation to cover additional legal services required during FY '26 that exceeded the original budget appropriation.
I'll second this, and then two questions. One, again, the Finance Committee already voted on this and approved it, so I think in the future, we need to clarify whether it has to come to this board if it's their own reserve fund. The second thing is, do we have since we are voting on it, do we have a reason for why there's a shortfall?
The biggest chunk of it this year was the
Labor?
Gateway Health Group. without a
Gateway.
doubt. The only thing I would say to that, though, we had discussed this with the Finance Committee too, sorry, Mr. Chairman, with your permission. I've been here for this is 2 years now. Each year we've gone over the legal budget. I think we need to adjust that legal budget, honestly.
I think we do.
We do try to keep that budget down as much as possible. We try not to have town council here at all our meetings, and we only reach out to them when we have a problem. But it has been 2 years in a row, and nobody could foresee the Gateway Health Group problem that we were dealing with, but
Yeah.
we should really, I think, increase that. But we did increase it last year, if you remember, in the early budget season, we put $40,000 extra in there.
Then we
We had
took
to
it
make
away.
the tough cuts, we cut it out, and then, hoping we'd do better, but
Here we are.
I think next year we have to.
Yeah, we also have had some extraordinary legal expenses, I think, between the MBTA Communities Act.
Correct.
And the 40R and the Gateway Group.
And
Nobody could have anticipated
Correct.
those. So, anyway, back to what's in front of us tonight. Is there a motion to approve this?
There was
transfer?
already.
Okay.
I made the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? It is unanimous.
I got a question, sorry.
Yeah. Go.
Just that window. The legal funds were 140 for the budget. And I guess we're going over. My question was, we've asked for this, I don't know, I think the prior Finance Committee Chairman as well, asked for some visibility on legal fees, that it be broken down between the main users, whether it's select board, planning, conservation, things of that nature, so we can see some transparency.
I do remember last year we did that. We did break that down for the board.
We're not, so. I'm not saying, I don't want a staff member to go back and grab all the bills and try to put in an Excel spreadsheet. Just having a code in here that just says when these things come through, it's planning, it's conservation, select board, or other, Just some kind of visibility.
Can we do that, Mr. Praval?
Absolutely, we
Last
can
year,
provide
we had to
detail.
go through them and do it in an Excel spreadsheet.
I think we should be doing that as a matter of course, just
Yeah.
to tell, just to be able to tell who's using legal expenses and why. I think we should be doing that every year.
So one thing we can do is as we set up the legal budget, it's set up as one line. So if we want more detail, we can have, the best thing is to set up a chart of accounts within the legal budget where we specify different categories of legal so you can see what's actually being spent on those particular categories. But this is in one line, and so I can run a detail report just to give everyone a summary.
What I would suggest
but
is that
setting
you and the
up-
town administrator meet and come up with a way of tracking those expenses.
And I can get the detail to everybody as well.
Okay. So next we have the.
Do we need to revote though? 'Cause,
I don't think so.
we don't need to revote.
Ms.
I just,
Maher?
I just want to make a comment. I think that, following up on Mr. Carter's comments and so forth, that we do need a process for using the reserve fund. I mean, the FinCom will be available anytime during the year to do that. However, you've got to look at a couple of different things. If we use it too early, we may not have enough at the end, because we never know what's going to happen. Like this, we've got 60 and we got 80. And that's 140, and we've only got 175. So those come in at the end. And and we don't want to be doing this piecemeal all year long either. Okay, so I think we've got to be, kind of walk a fine line with that, and whatever we need, if we need to do something during the course of the year, even if it's early on during the year, we can do that, but we've got to be aware that we've still got a lot of time left. And the other thing is waiting till the end. What if we vote no?
Well, that's.
So, and then, like today, what if there was a no vote?
I
And
can answer that.
then you got no time. So now what is it going to be, an unpaid
And
bill
I think
or
that's part of
something?
our concern when we
Yeah.
talked about this before, is
Right.
why, if we wait till the end and there is a no vote, what do? You have to pay the bill, you've already spent the
Yeah.
money.
Right.
Well,
The DOR?
don't you typically not pay it, then put it next year's town meeting as a
No, that's
prior?
not what happens. If you overspend your appropriation, it gets reported in your balance sheet as a deficit, and it gets raised on your tax rate. So if anything were not get approved, it would just go as a deficit on your balance sheet, and you raise it on the tax recap in the fall. That's why the state allows us, through Chapter 44, the opportunity that you come to the end of the fiscal year so that you don't have to have a deficit within one of the statutory categories as voted at town meeting to be able to transfer from available funds. And they allow you to do that between May and July 15th. But however, like you were saying for the Finance Committee, they can vote throughout the year. Because I went through back on this language and I sent an email about it and talked to the Finance Committee on things throughout the year. And so we're really looking at utilizing the Finance Committee for unforeseen things like amendments, or things that come up by mandates. But anything that we can absorb from available balances, we have the law that allows us to do that, but only at the end of the fiscal year between that time frame.
If I could achieve, Mr. Mahar, just, so we actually, we're trying to balance it out too. It is the end of the year, so we have to wait till July 1st. We are here at July 7th. If for some reason there were questions from the board and something didn't get passed, then we still have until the 15th. We could schedule a meeting Friday morning, we could do Monday night, we could do Tuesday night. I imagine we could probably even do the 15th during the day.
I think there have been years when we scheduled the 15th during this, I recall. So.
Yeah, so again, we did this on purpose, just in case there are questions that come up like that. And it's a very delicate balance, because again, you're at the end of the fiscal year, and then July 15th, 2 weeks, and you have the fourth holiday in the middle of there too. So very tight.
All right, so next we'll move on to the Treasurer Collector's Department. A transfer of $5,000 is requested from accounting, salary, and wages to the Treasurer Collector expense appropriation to cover increased postage costs, tax, title, legal expenses, and payroll processing services occurred during FY 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second? Discussion?
I have two questions. One is, was this an item that an increase was asked in the budget and then it was cut, and then all of a sudden, we now have to pay for it, or was it an unforeseen expense? That's my first question.
So the postage fees went up, and went up more than was originally budgeted for the treasurer and collectors, and we had tax title legal expenses that were higher than originally expected, and it was able to be absorbed within the treasurer collectors, but that's what happened.
So it was unforeseen?
Yeah, it
wasn't like-
it was unforeseen in terms of those costs going up.
We took it away from them?
No.
Correct.
Okay.
These are all unforeseen. That's kind
No,
of
but
right.
as what Glenn had said on the 80,000 legal, we actually had added to the legal, so that wasn't an unforeseen expense because we actually added in there and then we pulled it away from ourselves.
That's why it was unforeseen,
Yeah.
because it's.
And my second question is, when we go to do the budget for this year, we're making all these adjustments right now, so will we get a town meeting voted and then a adjustment that was made?
Yeah, so
Because
at the end of
we're
the-
gonna have to know what the final budget ended up being.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So what you'll receive is you'll see your original budget, then you'll see your transfers through the, special town meetings, and then you'll see your transfers that were done at the, you'll see the end of year transfers. So you'll see those appropriation amounts changing on each of the budgets. I presented an Excel sheet, so as you're going through, you'll see which account these transfers are being made from.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. We have the Board of Health Department, a transfer of $3,502 is requested from Board of Health expenses to Board of Health salary and wages, appropriation to cover increased clerical union grade increases that occurred after the budgets were set.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
On this
Mr.
too.
Ryan.
Okay, so how is it that a increase happened after the budget was set?
This is with the union contracts were negotiated for the clerical union,
Okay.
and one of the, this is after the budget had been approved, and this particular individual went up a different grade, so they had a different grade that was voted. But the clerical union contract was settled
I see.
after this.
So the contract was done after?
Yeah, we actually signed the
Yeah.
contract after the budget was set.
After the budget was set, okay, that makes sense.
Oh, but for 3502, you could just couldn't turn around and say, you gotta cut your other expenses? I mean, it's not a massive number.
Well, they're transferring money from the expense line to the salary, so the salary won't be over by the $3,502. So they had available savings in their expenses, so were able to absorb this in the budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? All in favor? Opposed? It is unanimous. And finally, we have landfill and engineering, a transfer of,
Excuse me,
Yes.
does the finance committee need to vote on that?
Oh, because you
you
did.
didn't vote on this one
Yes.
already?
Yes.
We didn't
No,
vote
you-
on this one, right?
The
That's
Board
what
of
I-
Health Department, you didn't
That's what I
vote?
thought we were here.
That's what you said at the beginning, that you had not
It
voted
says in
on.
here.
I thought you just said landfill and engineering you hadn't voted on.
No.
Well, which one didn't we vote on?
We certainly didn't vote the last one, the landfill and the
Yeah, I
engineering.
thought that was
That's
the one
that
that
just
said you
said
hadn't
I thought it
voted
was
on
the
it.
health department. Okay, my mistake.
Do you want to take a vote on it
I would-
anyway, in case?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to take a vote on it, and I don't have the finance committee, but I remember meeting with the Board of Health when I realized that they were not going to have enough in their salary budget to cover this. And so if it wasn't voted at the finance committee, I would like the finance committee to vote on this.
So we did not vote on the Board of Health?
She doesn't know.
I think no one-
Just
I-
the same thing might be to vote again, just to.
Can't hurt.
Okay.
Vote again.
Make it-
Okay, we'll take another vote. If we can have a motion to transfer 3502, how should we word this?
From the Board of Health expenses to the Board of Health salary.
Okay, Board of Health expenses to the Board of Health salary and wages. Do we have a motion? Okay, got a motion, second? A second? Any discussion or questions? Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Okay. And finally, we have landfill and engineering, a transfer of $35,145 is requested from landfill and engineering from landfill and from landfill and engineering, from debt service expenses to the landfill and engineering expenses appropriation to cover amendments to the existing contract. Okay. And this is the PFAS discussion.
This is the
you
PFAS
referenced
discussion,
earlier, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That's pretty-
So
pretty
moved.
clear.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Question?
Yes?
So I'm just looking at the financials, you budgeted 75,000 for it. Through May, you were at 57, so you had a $17,000 kind of balance to use. And now you're asking for 35, so the delta's like $52,000. So you have $52,000 worth of contractual changes because of PFAS?
No, they have a delta of 35 based off of the final invoice that they're paying for this particular fiscal year. So let me pull up the Board of Health.
But you had 17 as a cushion going into June, based on your financials.
Yes, and they're gonna be short by 35,
So
145.
it's
So they have 13 remaining right now. They're gonna need the 13 plus the 35 to be able to
so
cover the
40,
rest of it.
50,000,
Yes, yes.
So,
But they still have money in the budget. So they have 13,000 in the
Yeah.
budget and they have a bill for like
you
45,000.
need another 35. so it gets
Exactly,
you around
yes.
48.
Yep.
4850. So that's all caused by PFAS contractual changes, amendments?
That's correct. Yes, through amendments.
All right, the Select Board has a motion and a second, but I think we should let the Finance Committee go through their process just in case the question comes up that the Select Board might have a question on. You have not voted on this one.
Okay. So, we need a motion to transfer $35,145 from landfill and engineering from debt service expenses to landfill engineering and engineering expenses appropriation to cover the amendments to the existing contract. And we have a motion for that? Okay, you make a motion, we get a second? Okay, we got a second. Now, any questions or comments?
This is a transfer from debt services, it says here?
Yes. So we have, in our debt service line, we have debt service that we pay, but we also have our temporary loans. So if we are going to do a band, or if we have to pay other different issuance costs, we have money in that budget
So
fund.
just to clarify, you're not borrowing that money?
No,
It's just-
no, this is just money that we have in a line item in this particular, in debt service. We have available funds, and we're going to use it from that line to cover,
Thank you.
to move to a landfill.
Okay. So do you want us to vote first?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No? Okay. So,
Are there any other questions, Mr. Ryan?
There is, I think there was a wording issue, that's maybe what some of the confusion was. So the transfer of the 35,145 was requested for landfill and engineering from debt services.
Yes,
that's-
thank you, the
So the word
typo,
"from"
yeah,
should have been,
for.
so if we made a motion "from," that's probably not correct. The
Yeah,
motion
probably
should
should
be...
amend the motion.
The motion should be amended to take the 35,145 for landfill and engineering from debt service. That should be an amendment if whoever made the motion.
It says that.
No, it
No,
doesn't.
it
It
doesn't.
It says for.
It says the wrong
from
words.
instead of for. Should say
So
So
for.
you ought to have to change the word "from" to "for" in your motion.
Whatever.
All right. 'Cause we're,
All right, so amended motion, is there amended second?
yes, I second the amendment.
Mr. Carver?
So when you talk about debt service, you're talking about short-term interest, right? So
That's
it looks
correct.
like you got a budget of 100,000,
Yes.
and you haven't used really any. Is that unusual?
No, it's not, unless that money is used if we're issuing debt and we have to pay issuance costs, if we have a ban that we need to pay.
Yep.
We didn't have any this fiscal year, and so that money was available, so I spent it from that.
Okay, anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. That
Thank you.
concludes our budget transfers. Mr. Mahar, do you want to amend your meeting, or do you want to stick around for the capital outlay project update?
well, what we'll do is adjourn the meeting, so I have a motion to adjourn. Okay, motion second. All those in favor? Aye, meeting adjourned.
All right. Thanks for coming in tonight, folks. Ms. Praval, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a capital outlay project update. This is something that Mr. Carter requested. So, Mr. Carter, I'll let you...
I'll stay up here.
My only issue, but I think it's been cured to a certain extent, and that is, at our last meeting, there's various jobs that are finished, that there will be a number coming back, I guess, to free cash or next year, however we're going to adjust that. I want to say it was around 154.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Can you just give us a brief overlay of what exactly we're speaking about here, so everybody at home knows?
Sure. These are jobs that, articles that go back to 2018 that were never closed out. And what we've asked for is to try to get ahead of these stale articles. The capital committee goes through and meets with the finance director and the town administrator on a regular basis to find out, you know, what's going on. Are they being spent? Is the work being done? And then on the older articles, is the job finished? Can it be closed out? More on a regular basis. So that's basically the concept here, coming up with some jobs that are complete, that are in theory completed, and will be available funds in the future fiscal year. But what kind of flagged us a little bit was the IT project, that on this sheet that we got, there's $216,000 that the majority of the capital outlay as well as the select board approved to go back and do the IT upgrade. And we had something on there that kind of jumped out at us, which was in fiscal '24, there seemed to be a balance outstanding or left, sorry, fiscal '25, that said $9,900 was going to be spent towards a plotter printer. And that was something that wasn't in the $216,000 that the board's approved. So we brought that up to the town administrator at the meeting, who was going to go look at it. And I think if I read some of this documentation, that it's not capital, it's really a operating expense, and now it's going to be ran through the operating expense of the IT division?
That's correct. So this has not been paid out of the capital budget lines. The plotter is an operating expense. There was a capital spreadsheet that was sent out that had a list of all of the outstanding equipment, and that was added, but this isn't, that the plotter, which is for the town planner, came out of the operating budget, did not come out of the capital. And so the balances that we have, the amount that's been spent in capital for the IT project, we've itemized it based off of quotes that the previous IT director originally put together with purchase orders. And we've also been reviewing contracts that we've signed and the amounts that have been paid. So the total, and one of the things that we were doing with the capital committee is that we had a lot of older articles that went back to 2018, 2016. And over the last year, we made an effort to close those different articles and just move forward with requesting capital projects based on what your needs. Because if somebody, I'm not going to go into detail, but that's what the gist of what we're trying to do. So this wraps up the remaining older articles that were in the budget. So the 2000, as Mr. Carter was saying, the 2018, we did $119,000 that was spent, and it was on contracts for Focus Technology, Dell, TL Solutions, and then there was an Amazon payment that we have some journal entries that we have to do at the end of the fiscal year, and I can definitely have Chris, explain more about some of the work that they're doing.
So I think at a later meeting, because I think there were a couple items that need to get looked at, you're going to give us a final list of items that you've confirmed can be closed out.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, and that's more appropriate as I think for a broader discussion. But I know you had one particular item you were concerned about here.
My item was the plotter planner, because we were given it as, it was part of the $216,000 capital project. That's what I wanted to bring up.
So
but I think that's been cured.
Yes.
Okay,
So the only other item I have is I would like to understand, and if it's on the agenda, a complete review of the $216,000 project, just to get an understanding of where the money was spent, by PO, and PO detail. Was there an overage or was there a savings? Because I think at one point there was talk about all the bills have been paid, the $216,000, but the job wasn't done yet. So whether it can be done at this meeting or a future meeting, doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I think that's probably better put on a future meeting when we can talk about all of this in a broad way. I just wanted to get your questions answered and their
and that's
answer
been
to your...
answered.
Yeah, Mr. Ryan.
And since we're on that discussion, what I'd like to add to the future meeting is, and we said we were going to do it last year, I don't know if we did, is when we do appropriate capital money, there should be a fixed time frame for that. It shouldn't be like 10 years. It should be like, you know, if you're going to go to town meeting and ask for like $100,000 for a purpose, we really should know when's that work going to start and when's it going to end, and it shouldn't be crossing into, you know, subsequent years. So we probably want to make sure in this meeting that we have that we look at all the open capital items and what the time frame is.
So,
Ms.
through
Blau,
you,
then Ms. Ewens, okay?
through you, Mr. Chair, so what we've been doing is, we've been working with all the departments. We have more than $100,000 that's going to be going back to the general fund for capital projects that have been completed, capital projects that may have been funded from another source that are completed. You know, as I finish out, closing out the budgets, I've been more than happy to go through that entire list. I have provided it to the capital committee, listing all of the prior year. Right now, we have some FY26 capital projects, usually best practices that they're spent within 2 years. Sometimes you have a delay in terms of items, sometimes a delay in terms of the work that's being done. But right now, we have more than 95% of our FY26 capital projects spent, and all the prior years have been spent except for a balance in the IT budget that we've been, working with Mr. Carter and Chris on trying to resolve, especially with the change in department heads.
Thank you.
Yes, I seem to recall a meeting that we had with the former IT director where this was all sorted through.
So when we had our final meeting with John, he had a list of what he was going to be spending for the 2018 appropriation, and it was $119,000 in that appropriation. That appropriation was spent through purchase orders for focused technology, and that had to do with like firewall upgrades,
Right.
stuff for IT.
I remember.
Also with Dell. So there were a lot of purchases for Pro Mac bases. I can have Chris, I don't know.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not sure why we're doing this again, because we went through that with the former IT director.
Yeah, so we have it, with the change in positions, Mr. Carter was looking for more detail on how he spent it. We have the details showing the purchase orders. We have a detail of every item that I presented of what's been spent out of the prior year appropriations.
I'm not, excuse me, I'm not questioning that. I'm just questioning why we're doing, because that was explained in previous years. I just don't know why we're doing it again.
I think what's happening here is
I don't know why it was
Mr. Carter asked for an agenda item on one specific item, but what's happening is this is becoming a more general discussion, I think, of town meeting, all town meeting articles in general. I don't think that's on the agenda, and I don't think...
That's not what I was talking about.
Okay, well, I just think there may be questions that people have about...
I agree, it's two separate issues. The capital committee would like to go through the entire $216,000 budget, how the money was spent, what changed, because things have changed, separately. Once those are answered, I don't anticipate we're gonna have anything to bring to the select board, other than once it's determined that we've got this credit, to lack of better terminology, of old jobs. I don't think capital has the ability to say, we're gonna take it into free cash or whatever. Do we vote on that, or is that a select board vote?
Well, right now, no, it's not a vote. The money was appropriated by town meeting, and the best practices are spent it within the 2 years. We've been working with the capital committee so that the capital committee is very transparent on what departments are spending. Right now, we have only money in our current year FY26 budget for expenses. For IT, we've been able to identify projects that John originally put purchase orders for, and then working with Chris, there was a contract that he had. We were going back, trying to look at the contracts compared to the quotes.
I'm not disputing any of that. I'm just saying that when there is, for whatever the jobs are, when it's closed out, there's money left over. Is that a select board vote to take it?
No, I close that out as part of my practice at the end of the year, but I will provide a list to the capital committee, and I would then give a detailed report to the select board saying, this is where we ended at the end of the fiscal year, the projects were completed, this is the amount that went back to the general fund, but it's not a vote that is required by the select board to do that.
Mr. Cannon,
Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. I think we're getting a little far off, but I do just want to this one. So really, this is an appropriation made at town meeting. You're going to buy a 1-ton dump truck for $100,000. You negotiate a better price for $85,000. You have $15,000 left over, right, in that capital item. The finance director has the authority, once that project, it's been purchased, it's in our possession, she has the authority to close it out, so that $15,000 goes into free cash. It doesn't have to come back to the select board.
Good.
And again, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. for
Okay,
getting
no,
off
no,
track.
no worries. Mr. Carter, you've got the answers to your
Yes.
questions, right? Okay, so that's fine. We will move on to our next agenda item. Thank you both for coming tonight. All right, so we'll move on to the review of select board and town administrator goals for fiscal year 2026 and discussion of possible goals for fiscal year 2027. And then a discussion and possible vote ranking of select board and town administrator goals. So, let's see, why don't we talk about the town administrator goals first for 2026 and see how they ended up. So the town administrator goals for 2026, I'm just gonna recap because they're very long. Number one was the North Carver Water District. Number 2 was communication. Number 3 was budget and finance.
Oh, I don't know.
And
They're not numbered.
let's see,
Oh.
we also had staffing and
Planning,
I think it's
permitting,
permitting. Were those town administrator goals or were
Yes.
those? Okay.
and the town health insurance group transition
Yeah,
plan too.
okay. Yeah, Shelby had printed them for me and I think they got
Yeah.
mixed up. Okay, so as far as the North Carver Water District, we can discuss that, but I think basically the town administrator has worked just about as hard as he can in the North Carver Water District. He's put together a working group. I think they've been working hard to set up a step-by-step process of what will happen once that home rule petition is passed, and one thing he can't do is pass the home rule petition. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that, but all in all, I think you, Mr. Klein, you've done the best you can.
Yeah, that's my feeling. It's nothing
Yeah.
more, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I worked on that committee too, because one of our select board goals was the North Carver Water District Transition Plan, so the town administrator and I worked on, that plan and organizing it, and we think we've got a checklist that's ready to go. I mean, it can always use some more. I think there were some action items that we identified on that probably need to still be done, but all in all, we did create a transition plan, and we did identify a number of items that need to be started, and I'm not sure that we've started it yet, but we did put the plan in place.
it's hard to get started when we don't know.
No, there were a lot of things like, there were things we had found that said even, and that was the reason for doing the transition plan. There are actually things you can do now, or things you can start doing now to get ready. Like say you want to notify the public, well, how do you do that? And what are you going to send out to them? So you can get all this stuff, because if we get if we get somebody telling us tomorrow it was passed, then you want to be ready to go and not have to start from square one. So we did make good progress on it, I thought.
Any other comments from the board on this? Mr. Cannon?
I do like it as a goal. I mean, there's a lot of chasing to do, chasing down, leads here, because we don't have control over it. Makes it very difficult, but I think, like Mr. Ryan just said, it could come tomorrow. I know it's been a long, painful wait, but, when it comes, it can come fast. I mean, if you remember last November, I think the chairman gave me a call too and alerted me to it.
Yeah.
And if you look, they took maybe 6 different votes that one day, where they were one vote away from having it pass.
Right, and the Senate did pass it.
Yeah.
The Senate did pass it, so.
Yeah.
There was a lot of action that one day. I was fully expecting on November 20th that we would be in
Yeah.
control of the North Carver Water District.
Okay.
Here we are.
And here we are.
So it's stuck in the house?
It is stuck in the
Yes.
house, yes it is.
So the next was communication. I think there were a lot of parts of communication. I think as far as the public communication, I think that's
26.
gotten, it certainly improved. I think we did form that newsletter. We're back to the newsletter now. I think, Mr. Ryan, you had a couple of things in here regarding good select board decision-making. I think we've worked on that. I think sometimes the information is not completely as accurate or up-to-date as it could be. Sometimes that's not your fault, but I think that's something we need to continue to work on.
I think it is a continue. I mean, I think we've done better, but then there's been some situations where we all look at each other and go, uh-oh, how did this happen? So it's lessons learned. So as long as we're taking those and doing, we want to be prepared for meetings, and we want to have all the information to make good decisions at the meetings, and that's kind of the gist of this goal.
I mean, it is a very dynamic process. You see it tonight. There was an applicant who asked for an agenda item to be on our agenda. We put it on the agenda. That same applicant asked us to take it off the agenda. Again, there are things that you just cannot control. And
No, you can't.
It does happen like that. It does. And we try to do the best we can and get that information to us out. I think the weekly meetings I have with the individual select board members, I think that's extremely helpful. I know I was at the Middleborough Select Board meeting last night. Sounds like they were not doing that, and one select board member didn't know anything about the agenda item that we were talking about. So things you have to work on.
Yes.
Anybody else on that?
Well, I just said my 2 cents. The idea, the main goal is that, we don't sit there and get blindsided by the public. When they turn around and ask about something, we say, we don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, next, number 3 was budget and finance. There were a lot of things under that. I think that process, personally, I think that process has improved. I guess it can always be worked on, but I think it's improved.
Yeah, I think getting ready for town meeting, it's a challenge, and we know even right at the end, things are changing, so there's a lot of stress because we have deadlines, we're trying to get things done. So if we can continue to do lessons learned to make it smoother, I think that's important, because even the numbers and the accuracy and the wording and articles, all this stuff has to be vetted before we get to town meeting.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge because things come in late or change. And I think this year, not that we could have ever foreseen it, I think it was the healthcare issue with the, really messed with our budget, and at the last minute, everything was changing to try to balance it. We did it, but, and that, I guess you could count as an exception to this, but it's pulling it all together, which is important.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just say that I think that for next year's budget meeting, I think the group here was able to put together the budget books on time and everything else. You just might want to add kind of like working with the finance committee to get them started earlier. Because I think they started a little bit later then I think the books are ready.
Yeah, I know one thing, if you remember correctly, there was a time last year, I believe the finance committee didn't have a meeting for about 6 weeks. I want to say maybe the entire month of December.
Right.
Quite honestly, I should have called the meeting. It was just too long of a time period to go by, that's all.
That's correct.
Okay, next was staffing and succession planning. I think we worked on that. I don't know if the board has any comments on that.
Sure, I'll add, I think it's still important because, to continue to do that, to, stay on top of things, because, and I had a secondary goal to that. It was, even though we called it succession planning, it was if you go to one of the offices, like if something's needed from the treasurer, tax collector, and somebody's on vacation, they say, well, you just got to wait till that person gets back in a week. Sometimes you want to make sure that the key operations for these departments, somebody else knows how to do it, which that's how that helps with succession planning. So if you're taking these key roles, reports they have to do, things that they do, and you're training other people to do it, they should be doing it on a regular basis, because a good leader will make sure everything they do is somebody else can do it, so that when they leave, then it just transitions nicely instead of becoming a crisis.
Well, there are other, if I may, Mr. Chair, there are other departments where you can't do that.
There are.
Like the conservation agent isn't
Right.
training someone every day. She doesn't have a big department of 8 or 9 members.
Right. There are some you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else on that?
No, number 2 was mine, to make those positions full-time. I think that's happened to the extent possible.
To the extent possible, it
Yep.
has happened. We had to go back and forth with the conservation agent. We actually had some trouble with our previous conservation agent, cut back those hours. But the current one, I believe, is at 30 hours a week right now, so.
And she seems okay with that?
Correct, yeah, and we do bring her in. She is new, and just to make sure she's able to get her work done. And I know she has to juggle it a little bit, just like us, we have, she has the 2 meetings a month.
Yeah.
So she has to juggle her hours, and we try to make sure she has appropriate support for those weeks.
Yeah, and it's more than just the permitting meetings, too. I mean, there are
Yeah.
lots of other stuff she's supposed to do.
Well, honestly, the Conservation Agent has Saturday meetings too, so there is a lot to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that leads us to planning and permitting, and obviously, there've been some changes down in the planning department this year. I don't know if anybody has comments.
I
on-
do,
on this.
yes. So, yeah, this is, I probably say this every year, and it gets tiresome, but we need to do this, because if a land is offered to us in our right of first refusal, we cannot apply for state grant money to purchase land. The Conservation Land Trust money is not intended just to purchase a parcel. We got lucky one year, we were able to purchase 44 Lakeview Street, because we had that much money in that fund. But that fund is intended for other things that go along with purchasing, like, legal fees, or deed research, appraisals, that sort of thing. So, this is really important. It may not seem that way, but we'll be in big trouble if we want to purchase a piece of property and don't have the money. Can't apply to
So-
state grants.
So this goal really wasn't done per se, right? We didn't
Well,
make any
the-
progress on it?
Well, the open space plan, we did the survey in 2022. That was brand new. So it expired in 2015,
So it hasn't been updated
and
yet.
the master plan in 2017.
So we're behind on these goals.
We have been for quite a while, yeah.
And finally, the town health insurance group, well, obviously, we've transitioned
Yeah.
to health insurance, so.
Yeah, but I feel
Thank
this
goodness.
this became more reactive than proactive. I think when it was put in as a goal, it was intended to be prep and plan and that make it think it through, but then it became a reactive thing with, we're forced, we have to do something. So that I think it really didn't get executed as how it was intended. But.
And then we flip over to our select board goals, and some of these are sort of repetitive. Again, number one was
Yeah.
the North Carver Water District, and I think we've discussed that. Number two was finance and budget, and I think in many ways we've discussed that.
Mr. Chair, may I just intervene? No offense, but you skipped over the one that was listed here, increased new commercial tax base by 10.
He's up at the top, that's 27.
Yeah,
Go back to
we're on
the
select
doing
goals.
Oh, okay,
26
well,
then.
just for the record,
Up that
I got it.
Okay.
We cannot do that personally, neither can the planning board. I don't know who's.
Well, again, these are goals
I
that are submitted by
understand,
select
I
board
got
members,
that,
so.
well, just so you know, can't
Why can't we
happen.
do it?
Yeah.
Well,
But wait, we're not there
let's
yet.
wait till we
Sorry.
get there.
I'll
Okay,
tell
right now,
you what.
we're still back in 2026.
I
so.
will explain.
to the
Let's wait
future.
till we get there. So I think, again, the North Carver Water District, any conversation about the North Carver Water?
No, we all
discussed
worked on
that.
it. I think the board members
Yeah.
worked on that too.
Finance and budget, I think we've worked to increase that, improve that, and especially on the timelines and things like that. And we'll continue to work on that this year. The capital debt stabilization, we now have a working group to work on capital, so I think that will be helpful. Feasibility of current town properties, I guess that's a continuing.
That's sort of ongoing,
It's
yeah.
sort of ongoing, yeah. Land development and taxes. I think some of these things.
I don't think we've done much of those.
Yeah, we've done much of
But
that.
some of these things aren't
These all
really
fell down.
things that we can do.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then the town staff, I think pretty much everyone does this. I don't see anyone on this board
And
interfering with town.
Also, Mr. Chair, under land development taxes, number 2, split the assessors meeting that occurs in October. That's not up to us, that's up to the elected Board of Assessors.
I don't think that was, I
No.
think, and we did do this, I think what the board was asking for, instead of one meeting where the assessors come in and say, here's the split we want, and we sort of discuss it. I think the board was asking for a meeting a little earlier than that, so the assessors came in and sort of give us their thoughts. And I think we did that.
We did
We
that.
had-
We actually did that.
They're
They came
agreeable
before
to
us.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they actually liked that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that's, it wasn't about us telling them
Yeah,
to
just so we
do
know, we
that.
can't tell them to
Yeah.
do that. Okay.
We know that, yeah.
Just make that clear.
So now we can move on to FY 2027, and let's see, my first sheet here is the select board goals. So I should talk
Okay.
about select board goals first. So again, these were all submitted by different members of the board. They're very long. I'll just read the bullet items. increase new commercial tax base by 10%, stay on top of key important town items, finance and budget, and several things under there. Work with everyone involved to develop a plan for increased funding for capital, update to the open space plan, update the master plan, maintain and review a top 10 list of important issues for the select board, and as of October 1st, 2026, increase a process review of all healthcare expenses. So
Okay.
I know what my goal was, and that was clearly capital funding. I think it's short and sweet, I think we've fallen short as far as capital goes the last few years, and I think we really need to increase that. I think a lot of our departments are being starved for capital, and I think we need to find ways to put more money into that capital line item.
And I'd maybe add to that, I think they were looking for a dependable yearly amount. So increasing is good, but then if the next year they can't get anything. So I think they were looking for a long-term plan of, say, 5 years where we could dedicate a source to them so that they have something they can count on. So I would add to that maybe increase plus dedicated 5-year plan of available funding for them.
I think that's crucial. I think it's crucial that we're going to find ourselves falling short.
Right.
So that was mine, and I talked about that. I don't know, increase number one, I don't know who's.
That was mine, and I'll tell you, that plays into just what you were talking about. I mean, to move along our budget and to increase our capital, we need to look at our commercial tax base that we have here. We need to not only increase the money that comes out of it, but be competitive with the towns around us. Because our tax rate is much larger than the towns around us, because we don't have a good commercial tax base. We have a great area, in my opinion, around the 44 and 58 intersection. We have some developments that are out there. And I think us as a board, and me in particular, I guess I look at this, is to help out with developers, the town staff, everybody, as far as putting things together, making the process more streamlined, and bringing these things in so that we can get them developed, get them creating taxes, do exactly what we're talking about here. Because that not only increases our budget, but it also gives us money for capital. And it doesn't increase the burden on the residents to go out there. And then long-term, the last part, like I brought up before, is it makes us more competitive. And if we do smart development in the right areas, we can do that. And in and around that corridor is right for us to do that. We already have the beginnings of a great section that's there. Highways are there, the accessibility is there. In my opinion, that's a great, smart development area for a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. But we've got to speed up the measures that are there. And at the same time, keep it, within reason. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about putting 20-story high-rises out there. But there's a lot of things that you can do there, and we need to just be more proactive and get involved in what's there, because that's what makes all this go around, instead of going back to the residents and being like, all right, we need another, $500,000 or something. And then, again, making us competitive with those around us, because right now we're not competitive.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, so quite a few years ago, we and the planning board approved, it might have gone to town meeting as well. It was called 43D, expedited permitting. It was for that whole commercial area. So that's in place. That whole North Carver area was deemed a 43D expedited permitting area of town. So that's been done. Now, whether people act on that or not, I don't know, but we've already done that. And we'll have to look up when that actually happened. But it did happen. And it was prior to this town planner and prior to the one before that. It's been in place for a long time. I don't know, but I'm just telling you we have it.
Okay.
And it's called expedited permitting for that commercial district in particular. Not for any other region in town, just for that North Carver area. We could also increase the commercial tax rate, but I don't think we want to do that.
We're already in excess of all the towns around.
I'm not suggesting.
Okay.
I'm just telling you these are ways to increase it. One is the expedited permitting. One is increasing the commercial tax rate, which nobody wants to do, neither do I. And the other is to bring in more businesses. This goes for the planning board as well. We can encourage them if they come to us, but we can't make them come here. So, I mean, I don't know how you
make somebody come to Carver.
I don't think that's, I think the idea is that you want to make it
We're not trying to solve the problem.
comfortable. Yeah, I think that's.
Well,
the whole thing.
we've
And
got,
that's- I
we've
agree,
got
we
two
don't have to
things
do a
in
big
place. We
discussion.
have the 43D expedited permitting.
So I just
So they
wanna-
know that if they come to that part of town, things should move quickly.
So I just want to add, I think it's a good goal, so, and you have great experience, so we probably should at another meeting come up with a way to, or maybe how to develop it into some actionable items.
Perhaps some kind of joint meeting with the planning board might
I
help.
think that's a good
with
idea,
this type
because
of
I
thing.
don't think anyone knows really what happened to that along the way, but it was voted on.
But there is one
Some
thing that I think, I just don't wanna, I don't wanna jump goals here or jump from one to the other, but I think one thing that is really holding us back as far as a commercial tax base is water. And I think we have to
Yep.
solve this issue with the North Carver Water
absolutely.
District,
It's a huge-
because that, I think, would open up a world of opportunity if we could just get that resolved one way or the other. So that, and number two, I don't know who's,
That was mine. I mean,
Okay.
so the idea was that, so take the healthcare issue with the Gateway as an example. That was a $4 million hit. That hurt. You know, we were fortunate as a town to be able to resolve it, but it was at a price of doing that. So I really think that, you know, we got to look out forward at these types of issues. I mean, come the day when we're going to do the North Carver Water District, the transition, you know, of the water, that could impact residents. So I really think that we need to be looking at, you know, what impacts the citizens of Carver, both financially and otherwise, and be planning and coming up with a way to make it so it's not so bad. So that's why I put, like, you know, we talked about this at a previous meeting. How do you measure yourself? So average way to measure it is that at least we've identified issues that are going to impact the residents. We look at options to say, you know, what can we do to mitigate that, or, you know, make it not as severe. And then we do plans in place to try to mitigate it, and we're taking action. You know, we're actually identifying things and taking action. Below average would be that things worsen, things are negative, and they happen to us, and we should have been prepared. And above average is, you know, we're solving things before they become an issue. So that was kind of like my thought on that, is that we are faced with things all the time that impact our residents, and we got to stay on top of it somehow and look forward.
And I agree, and I agree with you as well, but there are unforeseen things. I mean, I don't think any of us could have foreseen the problem with the water.
Yeah.
It was quite a long time ago. I don't think we could have foreseen the problem with the health care. I mean, I don't think any blame can be associated with any one person on any of those issues. It's good to plan. I'm not suggesting that.
But if you don't ask the questions, or you don't have a session where you look and say, what do we think as a board are going to impact residents going forward? You know, even things like, you know, if the 40R goes through, I mean, there's going to be an impact to the town. So it's like, do you sit around and do nothing until it happens? Or do you sit and have a discussion and say, how do we prepare ourselves and we mitigate the impact to the town for putting something like that in place? So that's kind of what the goal's all about. It's just like, don't wait till it becomes a reactionary thing and we have to all of a sudden scramble and fix it. Let's ask ourselves what's coming at us. You know, what do we have to be prepared for, and putting some plans in place to mitigate it or manage it.
okay. Number three, whose was that?
It's probably, I can't remember.
A lot of those, I mean, I think I got a lot of these on there, but you might put them on as
I'm
well.
going to say, that's always the one.
Okay.
That's always important to continue to do this, you know?
Yep.
I mean, this is, at what point it becomes the duties of the job, you know, like work
Yeah.
collaboratively with leaders in school, you have to do that. I mean, this is considered a goal, but what point does it
Yeah.
move from a goal to a job responsibility,
Right,
you know?
right. And maybe those have to be tweaked a little to be more goal-oriented.
What was that?
Maybe, so what John's saying is some of these things, I think we just lifted the goal from last year, or somebody did and said, this is important, we gotta always be managing our finance and our budget and working with everybody to do that, but maybe some of these are just more job responsibilities, and
Yeah.
we should tweak it a little bit. 'Cause
Absolutely.
we're focused on probably more policy and process, you know, and that's
Yeah.
where we should stay focused, is policy and process.
Yeah.
And
That's a good
making sure
idea.
we learn and keep moving forward.
Right. Already talked about number 4, that was mine.
Yeah.
Number 5, the open space and recreational plan.
Wonder who's that was?
Sarah?
No, I think I've addressed that already. I mean, we're just not going to have any funding from state grants. if we don't do that. And that's, you know, that's up to the town, that's your decision.
Yeah.
And the master plan, is that yours as well?
Yes,
Yeah,
it
that's something
is.
we should be working on, absolutely.
You know, could I say that we do have a new town planner, he has already brought together the housing plan, it hasn't come from the select board.
Good.
Good.
We're anticipating in August, so, you know, I'll direct him to these things. Again, he's quite knowledgeable, and I know a lot of the work on the open space plan has actually been done. Somebody just needs to bring it all together.
What we're waiting
So-
for is for us in the town to get SERPED money to finish it, because the town has done its part
We'll
on the
we'll
open
work
space
on
and
that then,
recreation
yeah, we'll-
plan.
Again,
Number 7, I
I
don't
think
know.
that might be me.
But I think a lot of that gets done now. I mean, we pretty much with the town administrator, I think, when important things come up, we ask him to put it on his town administrator update on a regular basis. Go ahead. I
No,
think,
I'm just talking about things I've got that haven't been answered for years now, so.
okay,
So I'm talking about a top 10 item list that is, you've got your goals, responsibilities, you've got the, you know, but these are things that pop up that we're concerned about, and not to give him 50 things that he has to do in conjunction with the other items, just to like, you know, if there's 2 things from each board member that's important to us that would like addressed sometime in the near future.
He's got it on his whiteboard.
Okay, that, we keep a list, is all I'm saying.
is it something you think is not coming on the select board agenda that you think should be on an
I'm not sure if
agenda?
that has to go on the agenda. If someone's
Okay.
got, if a select board
It's just a question you have
person
for the
has
town
a question
administrator or
that,
something you're
that
not
we would
getting
like
at.
addressed,
Okay.
it doesn't have to come
It's
to
a
the.
focus issue, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we're not just giving Glenn, here's 50 things to do, when really we need 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if, you know, if something gets completed and you wanna put something on, but you're not giving him 30 things to do besides his job, besides his goals and everything else.
No, I agree, I think it's a good idea to focus.
Okay, and the final one is to institute a process, a review of healthcare expenses. And again, I don't know whose that was,
I
but
can do that.
That belongs to all of us, but
Yeah, that might be me, that might be me.
I think we're doing that now. You're highlighting all the
Yeah.
expenses
Yeah.
as they come, so. So we go over the town administrator goals, and there's a lot of them. We're under 2 pages here. I'll just go over the highlights. Again, increase the new commercial tax base by 10%. Communication, there's a number of things under communication. Budget and finance. Let's see.
So what I noticed though, we're trying to gauge them now, saying this is what the success would be on this particular item with the below average, average and above average.
Yeah, who came up with this below average,
That
average,
wasn't
above
my.
average?
That was me.
We'll get to that when we go back and review. That
I can tell you
wasn't
why I did
my.
it.
I like it.
Yeah, I'll tell you why I did it, yeah.
Again, everyone knows what mine is gonna be. There's number 4, the North Carver Water District. I don't have to say any more about that. I also had number 5, which is the up-to-date and accurate information for agenda items. Update our open space and recreational plan, update the master plan. I think we need to decide probably whether those are select board items or town administrator items.
They're only, well, we need to not lose sight of it as a board, and they're only town administrator items in that I think he can suggest that the planning department get SERPED funding. It's available every year. It's one municipal services funding from them.
Okay.
That's all.
Develop a funding plan for capital needs and succession planning, so.
Okay, succession planning, that one was mine, and I kinda, you know, looking at all the departments, you've got police, you've got fire, kinda put their stuff aside. So one of the 2 things either I'm concerned and I shouldn't be, or I need clarity on. One was the finance department, that when I was chair, and it first came that they needed this position added because the director was overwhelmed. The idea was to give this person a right and a left arm. The right arm is treasury, the left arm is a town accountant, so that she can look at high-level issues and get out of the weeds. But then, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, what I remember was, as part of the finance directors, when the position was created, and it went to the legislature or whatever, it got added, a town accountant was in that title. So instead of bringing on a town accountant, we brought a senior accountant on. I'm not questioning it, I don't understand it, but my question is are we still gonna morph towards a right and a left arm, town accountant, treasurer, so that God forbid something happens to the finance director, we have 2 people that can run the whole team down there, while we either pick one of them to be the successor, or we fill somebody in to fill the gap. I don't need an answer tonight, but I would like an answer at some particular point in time.
I can tell you right now, that would be the goal. So, we did hire a senior accountant. To me, the transition to that is into the town accountant role. So she does take on that responsibility. With that said, and I didn't spend a lot of time looking into it though, John, but there was, I believe, special legislation that created the finance director, town accountant in Carver, and that's why we didn't move towards that town accountant title.
But we could go and take that town accountant off that title and give this person a town accountant, but this person's been told you already get the duties of a town accountant, so it's not like something's changing the position.
Correct. But we would have to it would be special legislation to change the title of the finance director.
And the other one was O&M, which I guess we've got the director of O&M, and then we've got, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, we've got DPW, and then we've got his assistant. Now, his assistant that left, John?
Yes, he's gone. Yes.
Now, there was some confusion when he was first hired, because I remember when that position was added, we thought that person was gonna be the North Carver water guru, but then all of a sudden the person got hired and they're not. So whoever we're hiring right now, is this intent that now the operational director has 2 direct reports, DPW and this maintenance operation person?
No,
so that if something happens to him and he retires, the 2 of them keep things running while we get a replacement, or one of them fill the slot?
The assistant operation and maintenance person is the DPW person. Yes, that's correct.
DPW is John Woods.
That's
Yeah,
right.
John Woods.
And he's the assistant.
Okay, then
He's the deputy.
What was the mole?
He's the deputy O&M director.
Okay, so what was John's position, the other guy?
Facilities manager.
All right, but in theory, right now, you've got Dave Seedorf,
Correct.
John Woods, and facilities person.
Yes.
So do you have a succession plan that if Dave hits the lottery tomorrow, what happens?
Correct. And I'd say we're working right towards that same scenario again. So we have interviews for the facilities manager. For whatever reason, John, I want to say we have stronger candidates now than we did the last time. And I think they can transition into a more vibrant role, put it that way. Now that needs to be developed. They look good on paper, they interview well. You're going to bring them on board, make sure they can back up what they say. But there do seem to be better candidates to be able to groom to take over. But also that one left hand, right hand. Also.
Okay.
And I do understand with the previous facilities manager, there was certainly, I want to call it a miscommunication between what the O&M director had entitled for that position and what was told to the board.
There was certainly miscommunication.
And I've been told that by multiple select board members.
But let's get back to let's go in order here. So we already talked about increasing the commercial tax base. I don't think we need to, Mr. Elliman, unless you have something to add to that. I think we already talked about that. Communication, Mr. Ryan, is that yours?
Yeah, so the original goal, I think, from last year was continue methods of good communication to keep select board members informed on development of important issues in the town, stay on top of important items before they become issues. So that's a typical communication goal. But one of the things we had in the previous discussion is, well, how do you measure that? How do we know at the end of the year? And so for these goals, and even for ourselves, when you look back a year later, how do you tell that you accomplished it? So, what's expected is that most of the important information that happens, anything happening in town, we need to know as board members. So if we're getting things communicated in a timely manner to us, which I think is happening today, which is good, it's different than we find out about something happening in the town and we have no idea, and people are calling and the phone's ringing off the hook. We have no clue, that's not good. So if we're consistently being kept informed of things, developments in the town, to me, that's good. At the end of the year, we can all say, yeah, we knew about all the issues and we were kept informed of key things that happened versus there were things that didn't happen. So that's what that was all about.
An interesting thing about this goal is, as long as I've been on the board, I remember this was the goal for Rick LaFawn 3 town administrators ago.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the communication today is 100 times better than the communication was at that time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
I certainly appreciate that. I can tell you, it is still challenging to me. Again, it's a dynamic position. You guys see my desk. There's so much work that comes across that desk every single day. And it's the juggling act too, right?
Things happen fast.
Correct. And sometimes what I'm hearing are rumors. And I hesitate to share that sometimes with the board because I can't substantiate that.
Right.
And I don't want to I don't want to be passing along rumors.
No.
And that, sometimes it's a little difficult, because those rumors do become true.
Yep.
Or to help them with that.
Budget and finance?
Yeah, so same thing, budget and finance. I mean, and the first one I think is important too. So we have this vague goal, transition to accounting system to VADAR. Well, we know that's going to happen at some point, that we have to do that. We're going to do that. But how do we measure that? So I think what some of the key elements of that were staff training and coming up with a schedule and having minor issues. So if all the staff is at least trained, has been given training before the transition happens, and we have a schedule, we follow that schedule, and there's minor issues, to me, that's what's expected. We need to do that. So what's below average? We find out staff's not trained, people are not happy, they're not prepared, there's major issues. To me, that's a measurable thing. What's above average? Well, we find out that the staff absolutely is, happy with the system, they're confident, we were able to finish things ahead of schedule, and there were very little issues. So it's kind of giving you things to stretch for. So in order to do that, you have to have good planning, to make this stuff happen. And so instead of just telling you transition and that's your goal, what does that mean? And so I'm kind of giving you some ability here to look at what's expected and how do you go above that. That was the point. And this is not uncommon to what, John could probably speak to what we do in industry too. A lot of times when you're trying to work on goals, you have to have something with some way of measuring it or some way of knowing what the expectation is of what's average and what's above average. So that was my intent to do that there on all of these, looking for metrics or ways to measure that this is what we expect to be done for that goal. This is how you can go above, and because we had those questions or discussions before as well. What does it mean to be above what's expected, and how do we measure that, or how do we look for things that are above versus expected? So that was it for budget and finance. We got to do the transition of the system. We know we have the timeline that we have to maintain, and we have to meet the timeline for getting the budget prepared for town meeting. So it was the same way to do that. Same with the town meeting articles, and we all had, we all know the information has to be accurate, but the numbers have to be right, the wording has to be right. We want to have it prepared and ready to go. And if it's less than that, we didn't meet that goal, or that goal wasn't met. So that was.
If I just put, Mr. Chairman, one, the only concern I have here is with A, certainly. As of right now, we don't have any funding to replace VADAR, right? So, if it never gets off the ground, how do you even measure this?
Well, there wouldn't have been a plan then. It just would be if we never move off from VADAR. I guess, are we going to? Is that a valid goal? Are we going to move to a different system than VADAR, or are we going to stay with it forever?
It's certainly a goal, but like I say, right now, there is no funding.
All right.
There's not a funding source.
Again, I want to be careful we stay on the agenda, which are goals and not,
Okay.
but I would just say, if one of the goals the select board was to set for you would be to find a new accounting system to replace VADAR, and I think it's not just the select board, I think it's just about everybody in town hall's goal.
Right. To make sure you have the funding. Yeah.
That's something where you need to work on a plan and bring it to the board.
Yeah.
And maybe we have to move some money out of some other budgets to find a way to do that, but I think that's.
And I would think if the board said, no, we're not gonna do it, then that takes this goal off
The
the
goal
list.
just goes away.
Yeah.
Could we piggyback it? A select board goal to have the funding to replace VADAR. If the money's there, trust me, I'll take this all day long.
Yeah.
But if there's no VADAR, I'm sorry, if there's no funding to replace VADAR, it just seems unrealistic.
I think perhaps we can make it a joint goal.
There you go.
Maybe that's what
That's a good
we
one.
can work on, okay? Maybe that's a way.
And we can qualify this goal to say that,
It looks like all of these are joint goals
Yeah,
anyway.
I
just to
think,
repeat.
I think ultimately a lot of these are joint goals, and some of these, quite frankly, are already addressed in the town administrator's evaluation that we do on a regular basis.
yeah.
But, the next two are mine, and I don't need to talk about them again, the North Carver Water District and up-to-date information.
Yeah.
And I think, Sarah, we're probably moving into some of yours now,
I've already said it like 3
Yeah.
times.
So I think the guidance I'm looking for from the board, and I think the town administrator is as well, is do we want to set these as general goals, or do we want to rank the goals? Personally, I think we should rank the goals. And I think I'm looking to see where the majority of the board stands on this, whether you want to rank them or not. So why don't we just go around and.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question of your question?
Sure.
Meaning, what helps the town administrator? would you prefer
Good point.
a ranking of the goals? So it kind of gives you guidance on what's most important?
Yes, it does. It certainly does. You know, again, you know, a lot of work comes across my desk. Every day you have to make choices. And you know, where you put your energy some days. If there is a number one goal of the board, and certainly 5 members, a unanimous vote, you know, that makes it a higher priority for me. If it's a 3-2 vote, or if it's really just one member, just, you know, again, maybe it's a different priority, that's all. Doesn't mean it isn't still important. Doesn't mean, you know, especially, I'm a big momentum guy, right? Lots of times when you have momentum, you want to keep that rolling. So, you know, even if it is a lower priority, but I have great momentum, might want to keep that rolling. But it is to know. It is good to know what the priority of the board is.
So why don't we just go around and get a quick rank or don't rank from the board? We'll find out where we're going.
John Clyde says rank.
Okay.
I'm okay with ranking.
Is yours?
I think they're all important, but if it helps you to have them ranked, I'm fine with that. I don't see how any one is more important than the other. You have to do all of them.
Mr. Ellen?
I think you got to bring
Okay. So,
Just a question,
Yes.
point to that. So what I've seen people do in here as part of a ranking, and almost to what Ms. Hewens just said, is what you do is you set a percentage weight on each of them. Like say communications could be 20%, whereas the budget could be 50%. And so that is a kind of a ranking. I'm just throwing that out as I've seen that technique where if 50% of your, you know, say, score is going to be based on budget and finance, well, that kind of ranks that at the top because it's at 50%. You can rank them or you can set percentages. I'm just letting you know this.
I'd much rather rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But then how does that mean he only works on goal 1 and never works on the others?
I would hope not.
Well, that's my point. But if you know, if budget finance was 50% of his weight of his goal and communications was 20, then he knows he's got to do something to get that 20%. But you know.
I think we need to decide this tonight.
Okay.
I don't think we need to do the ranking. I think some of us are seeing these goals for the first time.
Yeah.
So I think we could bring them home and come back to the next meeting and do the ranking.
Sure.
But I think we need to decide exactly how we're going to do this so everyone can prepare this. So.
Good idea.
Yeah.
As far as me, I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, that's fine.
My preference. And
I'm fine with the 1 through 5, and in case we have something where 1 is designated, we can talk about it, you know, like it's focused on 1, to say, okay. Yeah.
So I would suggest to the board that you take these home and rank them.
Okay.
And we come back to the next meeting. They shouldn't take very long. We just go through you know, Mark Townsend has this and.
I just suggest too, another thing, like in most job descriptions for everything, it's kind of other duties as assigned. Because as much as we see these 9 today, 3 months from now, it might change.
It absolutely will change, and things are gonna come up that we haven't even thought of.
And I'll just use like the health insurance is a great one.
Yeah.
Like nobody really foresaw that, and I think that's just, I just always like to throw that in there because like, you know, I don't know where you guys work and stuff, but there's always that other duty as assigned because stuff happens.
Yeah. And that certainly is the job, you know, again, you can point to healthcare, you could probably point to whenever there was brown water coming in the North Carver Water District. I wasn't here that day, but I'm sure that changed every avenue, what you focused on for work.
Yeah.
It did. And you're right, and I think that's part of the challenge of our position and the town administrator's position, is you do have to be flexible because things do come up that you didn't anticipate. But you still have to have goals.
Correct.
And you still have to have things you're working toward. And you have to have priorities. And I think ranking them helps you stay on goal. So, the board, we could do this tonight, but I just think a lot of people haven't seen them yet, so it might be valuable to
Let's do it the next
take them
meeting.
home.
Yeah,
and
take
look
a
at
home
them.
look at them, bring it back.
All right. I just did it.
All right. All right, you've done your own work already.
Done.
All right, so let's see, the next item on our agenda, let's see, we've already done the special town meeting.
Did that.
So the town administrator update.
Sure. So just so the board is aware, I've heard some criticism of myself and the select board about a DOR audit that did not happen for the North Carver Water District. I guess there's a couple of things here. I do want to be clear on this one. First, the DOR does not do an audit of the North Carver Water District. They will review the financial practices and the procedures operations at the North Carver Water District. This happened earlier this calendar year. I will tell you that this review was going to be happening from DOR. I did reach out to the North Carver Water District, to the chair, asked if I could participate in this meeting. I was sent back an email telling me I was not invited to this meeting. Now, I think this is where some of the criticism came in. At that point, I did reach out to DOR and say, you know, I would like to be able to participate in this. At that point, they were unaware that the town was not involved in this process. The request had come from the North Carver Water District. It did not come from the select board, did not come from the town administrator. So that's why that DOR review stopped at that point. Again, without the support of either the select board or the town administrator, they were uncomfortable moving forward where, again, I was not invited to participate in this review. So again, I've just heard that, and I just want the board to be aware.
Thanks for that.
Last night I did have a chance to attend the Middleborough Select Board meeting for, again, the North Carver Water District issue, particularly their water agreement. They are talking about an extension of their existing water agreement. The terms to be worked out. They're going to put together a working group on that. It was an interesting meeting. The original water agreement came in 2023. It was a 2-year agreement. That's what Middleborough is allowed to do by bylaw, only 2 years. They did go to town meeting last fall, got a 1-year extension. So that extension actually runs out October 30th, 2026. So that's why they wanted to talk to the North Carver Water District right now about what their goals are for this water extension. Again, they took no vote last night, so they decided to have this working group so they could get together and kind of iron out what they're looking for. Mr. Belvin was there. He did talk about a 5-year plan for the North Carver Water District. I spoke there telling, you know, they're aware that we have legislation pending to dissolve the North Carver Water District. What I told them is if we do take it over, I'm going to say I would need a minimum of 2 years, and we haven't had the engineering firm go in there yet and do the evaluation. We don't have control over the North Carver Water District. I know they're trying to do that right now. But again, I think we're still some time away from that. But hopefully there will be an article on the Middleborough Fall Town meeting for an extension of that water agreement. And we certainly need that. They understand how important that is to the town of Carver, and they're willing to move forward with that.
The town of Middleborough has been very generous to the town of Carver as far as helping us out. They've done things they didn't have to do.
Yep.
Correct. And that was certainly the first thing I said to them last night, you know, thanking them for doing this for us. It was interesting, you know, before North Carver Water District was on the agenda, the town of Bridgewater was on the agenda. So, you know, Middleborough does do this for other communities. I know they did it in Rochester. They're doing it in Lakeville. So they do supply water. They seem to be quite good at running a water department. They have a gentleman over there, Mike Bumpus, does an outstanding job.
He's a Carver resident.
Yeah, he does a really good job. He helps us tremendously. I see the work that they do, and I know I'm very appreciative of that.
Well, okay, thank you.
You know, again, good meeting. You know, again, let's hopefully they'll be able to work out their concerns here. Any concerns they did have there. I think just like you hear tonight, there were some concerns about communications between the two departments, but something worked out. Just so the board is aware, some good news here. The Old Colony School received a $310,000 grant for adult training in the trades. I thought that was very interesting. So it's a night school program. They're looking to bring on 30, they say, underemployed or unemployed individuals, particularly with carpentry and welding. They have a number of commercial partners here that they're gearing up with. I think we've heard about this over and over again, the lack of people in the trades, that, you know, people need more people in trade. So again, kind of the state giving a grant here to go call in the school to help them out with that. Also, just so the board is aware, the Carver Fire Department, I remember talking about this a little bit last year, they were voted one of the best places to work on the South Shore. And this is from South Shore Awards, the Best of South Shore Awards. I don't have the website, I'm sorry. I know you can go onto the website, I'd have to Google it. I don't have it in front of me, but again, the Carver Fire Department voted one of the best places to work on the South Shore. I thought that was very good.
There you go.
And then the last thing I have is, you know, the new newsletter is out July 1st, packed with information. So, you know, I invite you to. I believe it's been emailed out. It is on the website also. So,
I already got my copy. Head off the press. So.
Exactly.
There you go.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's see, topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. There were none. We have the approval of the minutes of June 16th, 2026.
I move to approve the minutes of June 16, 2026.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? We have the approval of the executive session minutes, June 16th, 2026, and not to release.
I'll make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of June 16, 2026, not for release.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Let's see. We have a request to use town-owned property, Shirtliff Park, on July 18th, 2026, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. from Carver Sportsman's Club for distribution of political signs.
What day of the week is that?
That is a Saturday.
Exactly.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to ask the town administrator, did we find out whether the distribution of political signs is okay to do on town-owned property?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
That is a Saturday.
Okay, and it doesn't conflict with anything else. That's what I was trying to think about, if it's available.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve the use of the town-owned property on July 18th, 10 to 4, from the Carver Sportsman Club for distribution of political signs.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. Select Board announcements. Mr. Elliman?
No, good.
Is yours?
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone of the Shane Gives Thanks Food Pantry, which is open for everyone in need, and in particular veterans. I think their schedule is on their Facebook page. Please check it out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Cotter?
Just wanted to wish everybody a happy America 250th birthday. Sounds like everything went well for the 4th of July. Also, we had a long streak of hot weather a couple weeks ago. I anticipate we're going to have it again. So please, keep that in mind and check on your neighbors and the elderly if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
And just a reminder of the farmers market on Sundays for people to participate in. And on the airport committee, just to let you know, one of the things that's been discussed a lot is noise, especially on weekends and holidays. So, and it primarily seems to come from one of the flight schools. So there's been discussions with the owner of the flight school, and they've actually agreed to potentially minimize operations on holiday days. So they were asking, what made sense, and so it's actually the day of the holiday. So like say July 4th or Labor Day or something. So they're going to, for people that are trying to do, say, activities in their backyards and things like that, they're going to try to minimize at least the flight school activity on the day of the holiday right now. And you could probably go to the website for the airport to get more information on that.
All right, great. I have nothing to add to what's already been said. Our next scheduled meeting is August 4th. There's always a chance we may need to schedule a meeting between now and then. That's a long period without a meeting. And let's see, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn from open session and go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, to discuss contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the town administrator, and not to return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Carter?
John Carter says aye.
Dan Ryan says aye.
Mark Townsend says aye.
Sarah Karen says aye.
Janelle Evans says aye.
All right, we adjourned. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Area 58.